investors because they get subsidy. But we pretty much cut that subsidy out, I think, Doug, right?
Absolutely. In the working families tax cut bill, it all expires, and since the subsidies have gone away, there's virtually no one, particularly offshore, no one is trying to build one of those projects in America. Turns out they weren't trying to generate electricity; they were just trying to generate tax credits.
That's right. You're supposed to be making money with, with energy, and here wind needs subsidy. Energy shouldn't need subsidy. We have so many different forms of energy, but I've talked about it for years. Wind is the most expensive. It's the worst. It causes tremendous problems, and it does. It kills millions and millions of birds a year. Nobody mentions that. You'd think if that were anything else, everybody would be sued. If you kill a bald eagle, they put you in jail for like 4 years or something. And yet windmills knock them out of the air all the time. Nothing happens. It's disgraceful. So we're into energy that really works and works powerfully. Yes, go ahead.
And we're waiting outside to come into the Oval Office. Everyone's looking at the UFC structure, the claw. Are you happy with how that's coming along, and what are your expectations?
We put it up in 5 days. It's incredible. And I told yesterday the story of the Eiffel Tower, and it was 1889. It was put up. It was going to be brought down right after the World's Fair ended, which was up for a short while. And they said, well, let's leave it a little bit longer. Then they said, let's leave it a little longer. It never came down. That was 1889, the World's Fair in Paris. So I jokingly said, let me tell you a story about the Eiffel Tower. Now, it'll come down after the fight. There were actually some people who said, he wants to leave it up. Yes, please.
Mr. President, I put the Columbus statue, Columbus Fountain at Union Station. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
And what does that mean for the relations between Italy and the United States?
Well, it means Italian people love Trump.
I'm going to cut out right there. You go. Mark there. Join that at the top of the hour because Freddie was doing a big event, as you know. Then he went to Q&A. We like. I missed the question. Juicy asked him about the $250 bill thing, and he's like, yeah, people are talking about it. He's like, some people like what we're doing. I can't do a really good job. That's kind of funny. So I shouldn't even try.
Dave Klein-esque.
Oh, my God. That's really bad. Oh, my God. Really that bad?
It wasn't bad.
Okay, well, I don't really try and have practiced it. So there. Man, I'll never try that again. That's for sure.
Yeah, but you should. It's entertaining.
Okay, thanks a lot. How is everybody today?
Great.
Good. Are you sure? Fred, you look a little unsure.
No, I'm very sure.
Okay.
Fred got good news today. His studio's working.
Yeah, you just said that as you walked in, right?
Yeah,
That's a bit of a
the
small
board
miracle.
that I used to record on is back and working, so now I've got a place to go.
So you can actually hear things in there?
And do my job.
Oh,
how about that?
Look at that, Fred.
Yeah.
Look how the company came through for you
great.
here. Sue, you doing well?
I am fine.
You having a good Thursday as we get closer here to the weekend?
I made a big batch of soup.
Ooh,
which
nice.
sounds, but then it's 85. I don't know
though. I think it's okay. I can do
Thank
soup
you for
when it's
that.
warm. Soup is good. What kind of soup though?
Tuscan garbanzo bean sausage.
That sounds very fancy.
Yeah, it's good. It tastes good. I think.
I like it.
I don't know.
We can always sample, or you can, you've invited me over so many times and I've had to turn you down. Maybe I would take up one of those
Mark,
invites
you want to come for
the
dinner
backyard.
tonight?
I'm
You're
in.
welcome.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
definitely in for sure. So just count me as a positive for that. All right, we got a lot since I started the show a little awkwardly here with going to Trump. There's a lot of stuff that I want to cover today, and there is this crazy updated story about the controversy with a trans player at San Jose State University and the volleyball team. That's not really a new news, but the investigation is new, and the details of the investigation are crazy. And Jackson Thompson is the guy who wrote about this for Fox Digital and Outkick. And Fred, you just kind of locked him down for 3:30 this afternoon. So that's coming up a little later. I'm so excited, by the way. Maybe the main thing that gets me excited today is the fact that we'll have insect news a little later. And I feel like I almost have to play this like right now. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
It's time for Insect News.
Well, not yet, but it will be. Yeah, I got a good one. Actually, it's a topic I think we've talked about before, but there's also an update to that. I'm going to bring that to you this afternoon. We have Charles Lipson from the University of Chicago coming up. We have Josh Kraushaar, and we'll actually be able to hear him because he'll be on a landline. He was with us a couple of days ago, and we didn't really have a full conversation. Gabe Gore, Sue, is going to join us in the studio.
That's fantastic.
He is the circuit attorney. He's been there for 3 years now, which is kind of crazy, and they're doing some things that are positive. here's how I know he's doing his job. We don't hear about him ever, right?
Yeah,
he's actually
that's true.
Working, and
Yes.
I guess he is also. If I'm not mistaken, he's on a ballot, right? But I don't think anyone's gonna vote against him. I have to check that. We'll ask him. He's coming in the studio, right, Fred?
Right.
So let me take. I got a bunch of things here. Sometimes I forget to do the things that I do on Twitter when I'm, giving hot takes, Sue. If you will.
I see.
And there's a bunch of different things that I want to talk about that really aren't on the list today that sort of relate to some things on Twitter. One, and I just tweeted this out from Sean Malone, who was over at KMOX. He was covering this event. This is pretty cool. I didn't know it was going to happen, but Jackie Joyner-Kersee and the St. Louis Sports Commission made the announcement today that the Olympic team trials for the marathon will take place here in March 25th of 2028.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wish we were getting more track and field.
Oh my gosh, that's so. Now, where are they going to do it? Does it say?
Well, I think what they said was it's going to end at Energizer Park.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know what the route will be beyond that or if they've even announced that, but they did say something about the soccer stadium, which that'd be awesome. Maybe you run into the stadium. I don't know. Fred, if you see any more details on that, that literally just got announced. And,
I'm so excited.
Sean's
by
over
that.
there on the other side of the building, and he would have those details. So, yeah, that's cool. I think it's awesome when we have something like this.
I'm going to spectate for that. I wonder if they'll let me, put out orange slices or whether it'll be, super... you can't do that because you might poison somebody kind of deal.
Yeah, what is the rule on that? Do people just grab those when they're running sometimes?
Well,
from
yeah,
randoms?
I've done that, but I guess I look trustworthy enough from randos just from running the St. Louis Marathon. You could go out. One time
Right.
it came by my street, and I went out there with the orange slices, and the people came by.
Man, I think it would be a little risky in a marathon for
That's
the Olympic
what I mean.
trials.
There's no way they're going to let me do that, right? But
No.
surely I can watch.
Sure. Well, I mean, the thing about a marathon is don't you kind of want to be at the finish line?
Oh, I don't know.
Or no?
I kind of like to see midway how
Okay.
everybody's looking. But you're right. The end would be, I think you could do both, right? If I knew what streets were closed, I could go
you could.
somewhere close to me, and then at the end, that would be awesome.
My rule on marathons, so it's very simple.
What is that?
Anything that makes you poop your pants and your nipples bleed, I'm out. So
It doesn't make you poop your
well,
pants.
really?
I'll
Okay.
give you the
I
nipples
think
bleeding.
it's happened. I think it has happened for sure. All right, I'm going to tick off the Twitters. Ready? Can I still call them the tweets?
I don't know.
I'm pissed off about this, Fred, and I think you will be too, and all Cardinals fans. First of all, the Cardinals won last night. That was great.
Right.
Really good. The Knicks won last night, kind of dramatic fashion.
That was great,
kind of fun.
too.
I watched
I
the end of
watched
that
that.
game. But the Brewers are in action this afternoon. The Brewers are good, although I think we're only a couple of games back right now. Churio hit a home run, and they got a huge tarps off crowd at Miller Park right now. I do not like that. I don't like it at
me
all.
neither.
We let the Brewers steal this from the Cardinals. My friend Doug Russell, who does radio up there, says all good things, kind of get stolen, and that's what happened. I don't think there's anything we can do about it, but wow. It's crazy how that kind of, ran through a lot of these teams. And I think it's kind of fun, and people will remember this. I don't know where this is going to take us for the Cardinals, but look, it was a good win last night, and I think that's great that they locked that down. All right, I got Barry Weiss stuff that I'm going to cover here this afternoon to a certain extent, and I just want to run through a couple of the tweets, some of which go back even to last night, because here's the variety. Some of the coverage in the legacy media or the Hollywood trade publications about what Barry's doing and what she's not doing, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's not true, but they had a story that said 60 Minutes legend Steve Kroft says the news program has become disastrous under CBS News boss Barry Weiss. So we don't care what Steve Kroft says. I think we mentioned his name yesterday. Curtis Houck did. But really, is he a legend? I think Ed Bradley is a legend. I think Mike Wallace is a legend. Quite candidly, Leslie Stahl probably is too. I don't like her style of journalism, but she's been there for a long time. I think she certainly qualifies as that. I'm not sure I'd put Steve Kroft in that category, but he's trying to be relevant again. David Zweig, who I like quite a bit. David is a guy that wrote An Abundance of Caution about what happened with COVID. Really, really outstanding book. It's an important book. And he tweeted this out yesterday because the New York Times covered this story about 60 Minutes and, the dust up with Nick Bilton. There's new reporting today about this, too, about what happened at the meeting on Monday, how they reacted, how they went through the process of deciding to fire, Pelly. But when the New York Times wrote about this, they said Ms. Weiss, an opinion journalist with little television experience, was appointed last year by David Ellis and blah, 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 blah. And David said, the New York Times line is ridiculous. Yes, Weiss was an opinion writer, but she was also the founder and editor of a media corp that had over 1 million subscribers. myself among them, by the way, and happy to be. There's a lot of these publications I wish I wouldn't have to pay for. I get a lot of good content from the Free Press, and I'm happy to pay them monthly. But like he said, that's a non-trivial portion of which are paid, that the published plenty of investigative work, they publish plenty of investigative work, and the New York Times deliberately used the least salient descriptor, which is what they did. It's ridiculous, but that's how they operate. So then there's Alex Thompson. Alex is interesting, too, because he's out there on Axios, and I think he wrote for The Atlantic several years ago, but he's reporting that there's a lot of folks on the Biden side, like the people that work for Biden, that are so mad right now about Jill's book, because
I bet
she's essentially throwing some people under the bus. This Andrew Bates guy, where he's been a really big supporter and was an important person in the campaign. And I guess that Jill said something disparaging about him. So Alex is out there with some tweets that are kind of interesting about what people are saying. Another former Biden White House staffer tells me the former First Lady would still be known as the former Second Lady without Andrew Bates, right? Reactions from another former Biden aide. Just a whole lot I could say about this, but I'll leave it at being so unbelievably disappointed. So there's a lot of folks that were in the Biden White House that are breaking bad on Dr. Jill right now, which I think is very interesting. I'm just going to go through these tweets because, again, there's things that I want to say. I'm going to do it very quickly here. Who's coming up first? Charles. We're okay. Eric Erickson, conservative. They're breaking my way a little bit here on this war stuff. His tweet: the president has taken a winning situation and turned it into an American defeat. I retweeted that. I would read it because he makes some great points in that. There's a great Libs of TikTok tweet where it says the education department under Biden and Trump. Biden, we will trans your kids and allow boys to beat up your daughters. Trump, we will protect your girls and keep boys out of girls' bathrooms. And they have this awesome graphic where it gives you a pretty clear choice, America, between the two. In New York City, at the New York City Council, why wouldn't this happen? You had a trans performer dancing in front of the council at City Hall during a Pride Ball event. By the way, the man was not a very good dancer to begin with, and it was just ridiculously below whatever they may consider real business at the New York City, City Council. I have some more Barry Weiss stuff, but I don't think I have time to do it. But then there's this one thing, Sue, I want to show you this, or I want you to see this, because there's a accident, and it's only like a 15-second video. And I retweeted this. You always follow me at Mark Reardon, KFTK. There's a driver. This reminded me, unfortunately, of St. Louis. There's a driver in an Audi who blows through San Francisco, blows through a red light, and a golf cart. It looked a little bit more fancy than most golf courts. T-bones it, and people go flying, and it is unbelievable. But the guy just blows through the red light. Let's see here.
Wait, the golf cart guy did,
no,
or the Audi?
The Audi guy did.
How did he hit him?
Sue,
It's bad.
it kind of makes you sick if you watch it.
you
Because you see
really?
them flying out.
Yeah, there is a warning that,
thanks, Fred. I don't know. I mean, how fast was the golf cart going to hit a speeding Audi through the
30 miles an hour.
Oh, so
Probably.
That,
It was. If you look at it, it's pretty souped up, right? And then there's this tweet from the Washington Post, and I want to highlight this just very quickly. High heat will soon affect 150 million people. See where it will be the hottest. What I love about this is they go into great detail at the beginning of the story about how mild it's been across the country. We've had an awesome spring, right? So what I said is when they say high heat will soon affect 150 million people, I believe there's a name for this. You guys can correct me. I think it's summer, all right? Now, I realize it's not official till the 21st, but it's summer. So, of course, the Washington Post, let's not focus on the much cooler spring that we've had. Let's just scare people.
Watch out for a stall. This is eastbound 70 past Lucas and Hunt. It is blocking the left lane. Now, there was a vehicle fire westbound 70 at 5th Street. They got that cleared. Still some slow-moving traffic. It's just kind of unwinding out there. 370 westbound is jammed, headed for 141. That due to road work. And southbound 270, it's just moderate volume now, but it's approaching Olive down through Doherty Ferry. A little slow at Gravois as well. On the Illinois side, we're fine on the bridges. Eastbound 64 jams at 255, and westbound 5570 lines up from Exchange. This is in both directions, but it's in pockets out through 255, all due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas. That's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
So there has been, Dwayne Patterson was on last night. There's been rumors about some new stuff dropping about Graham Plattner, and I haven't even read it yet, but it's in the New York Times. It just cleared. We'll check it out. We'll cover it coming up next. Okay, there's another new Graham Plattner story that has cleared from the New York Times. I'm going to sum it up just very quickly here because what they say is after a day in Washington on Tuesday where he's trying to defend himself from some of these charges, which he's a despicable human being, there's no doubt about that, the rumors started spreading again about more things in his personal life. So he starts calling women that he dated that might acknowledge, some things, and he's trying to convince them to say, look, maybe I was a bad boyfriend, but I'm a decent guy. So the New York Times does a bunch of interviews with people, and some of them actually say that. But this is where, it always gets interesting because there's always a but, isn't there? Yeah. In extensive conversations over the past 2 months, 3 other women who had been romantically involved offer a far more complicated assessment describing volatile and toxic relationships. So that's kind of the story. I'll dig into the details here. We'll welcome Charles Lipson into the fray, professor emeritus at the University of Chicago. He writes regularly at charleslipson.com, amongst Real Clear Politics and others. And, one of the things I was going to talk about with you, Charles, was Graham Plattner. And I guess the feeling that people have had, because this stuff gets rolled out in opposition research that gets leaked to the New York Times, et cetera. But they're going to keep, having stuff come out about this guy until he's out, it sounds like, right?
Absolutely. I just read the New York Times story. Let me say 2 things about it. The first thing is that this is a big exclusive story on a vital race of who will control the Senate. The New York Times has done extensive investigations, and it is running it as an exclusive story. It is seventh on their current webpage after basically 6 anti-Trump articles. It is just stunning. The second thing is that in the article itself, it says that Plattner referred to his tattoo as a Totenkopf. That is, he referred to it by its Nazi name in conversations with the women. Now, he has said, I'm so stupid, I didn't know. But if what they say is true, then he is
lying.
Not only knew, he's lying about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, did you see what the Babylon Bee, my main source for news,
I love the Babylon Bee. I didn't see what they did. What'd they do?
Plattner surprised to find Hitler tattoo refers to Nazis.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I love the Babylon Bee, because it's so brilliant that way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of...
Well, actually, humor often gets at these things that are, deep truths, but hard to say.
Yeah, I'm kind of paging through this right now just to see what else is in here. But again, what I heard earlier today in some of the reporting is that there were a lot more nervous members on Capitol Hill about Graham Plattner yesterday than there were the day before, because they knew some of this was coming and he really couldn't explain it away in some of those meetings on Tuesday. So this could be interesting to watch.
The idea that Chuck Schumer is still endorsing him tells you everything you want to know about how important the race is and how much partisanship now overrides even the most primitive calculations of ethical behavior.
Absolutely. Let's talk about California, because it is stunning to me, and I talked about this with my friend Dwayne Patterson yesterday. I don't think that it even resonated with me until after the show, how ridiculous these voting rules are. Now, I'm not a big stolen election guy from 2020. I know that there's, malfeasance that goes on, but the stuff that they do in California is just outrageous. You can handwrite the, the post date that you're sending it out. It could be on election day. It might not have to be on election day. It could be after election day. It's ridiculous what they allow out there, but it's California, so I guess it fits the narrative, Charles.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because in many ways, California and some of these other states over a century ago were the leading states in the progressive movement. That's why there are all these propositions on the ballot. They want to let the people vote on these things. On the other hand, their rule for elections are just fraught with possibilities for fraud.
Absolutely.
And
in
particular, if you're if your ballot is postmarked, or you say it's postmarked, by Election Day, it can arrive up to a week later. And then they have to do what they call, I forget the exact term that they use, but they basically look through and see if there are any problems with it, and then they try to resolve those problems. Is the signature wrong? Well, instead of just ruling out the ballot if the signature is not clear, they go and try to find out what the signature should be and so forth. And the problem with that, besides there are two problems with it. One, it leaves too much discretion to the election judges, who, of course, are extremely biased. In Chicago, for example, there really are so few Republicans that the, quote, Republican judges at polls are all Democrats. And the second thing is that if you leave things unsettled for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then there's not only more time for mischief, but all of us who are on the potentially losing side of a close election are going to say it was stolen.
So, you know, what's interesting here in California to me is, and I'm looking at an LA Times story, and, you know, these are the same numbers that we had yesterday. There's only, I think yesterday there was 60% of the vote. Now there's 62% of the vote in the mayor's race. That's utterly ridiculous. Right now, Karen Bass leads. Spencer Pratt still looks like he might make the runoff, but this Nita Raman, the Democrat, progressive, socialist, communist, still has a chance depending on where these votes come from. In the governor's race, boy, it sure looks like Steve Hilton is certainly going to be in the top two, if not the winner, with Xavier Becerra coming in second. That could change. Tom Steyer's still got a chance. But, man, Steve Hilton looks, I said this yesterday, I think Karen Bass is going to win. It's a deep blue urban area, right? But I think Steve Hilton may have a legit shot here in California. Charles, I'm interested in your opinion.
Those are both fascinating projections. It's of course, it's hard to know. I'm a Yogi Berra fan. He's a St. Louis guy, right?
Yep.
Yogi Berra said it's hard to predict, especially about the future. And but by the way, almost all of those great Yogi quotes we know about because of his buddy growing up in St. Louis, Joe Garagiola.
I love the history.
Who was a broadcaster
I love the history.
for so many years. Yeah, but so here's the deal. The third place finisher, and in the governor's race, there were a lot more than three candidates, but almost all besides the top two are on the left. Okay? So assuming that they vote ideologically, then they will go with the leftist most of the two candidates who are left. In the mayor's race, that's Karen Bass, and in the governor's race, that's Becerra. But if what those people are is essentially dissatisfied people voting against the status quo, then the Republican candidate, both of whom are running as non-traditional candidates, might be able to capture them. I'm skeptical. I know. Wish you were
California.
right. I hope you're right.
I'm skeptical too, but I just think that there's enough in California that people are really angry about in that governor's race that maybe, just maybe, there is a little hope, but we'll see how that kind of resolves itself.
I agree.
Hey, one final question before I let you go. I don't have a lot of time. Are we still at war with Iran?
Symbol is now the U-Haul truck.
Well, yeah, for California, that's right. Are we still at war with Iraq or with Iran right now? Can you answer that question? Not Iraq. Oh my God, I'm going back 30 years now, 40 years. Are we still at? Well, what are we doing here? Because I'm very confused as far as how the president plans to kind of close this deal. You know, there was this very tense phone call with Bibi on Monday. They're kind of playing nice right now. Trump was pissed though at some of the stuff that was happening in Lebanon. So I remain rather surprised, Charles, that there's no more military action that's taking place. That he's kind of been more patient there.
I'm surprised too. But I think that the issue is that if they go back to military action, A, they're not sure that they can knock out the regime, which is their goal, and B, they're almost certain that the missiles and so forth that Iran has left will destroy a lot of oil in the other Gulf states.
Yeah.
The problem is that we're now running very low on reserves of oil, and that's going to create pressure to get something done. And if they can't get a deal, and of course no deal with Iran can be trusted.
No.
This is not trust and verify. This is don't trust and verify. And they're not going to allow that. I mean, why else would they be doing all the things they're doing?
Yeah, I'm with you. That's where I think we're into some trouble here. Charles Lipson, you have a great week and a great weekend. Thank you, Charles. We'll talk soon.
You too.
All right. Yep, take care.
Friend.
There is a stall eastbound 70 past Lucas and Hunt that has been blocking the left lane. Well, they got that moved out of the way, so traffic is starting to unwind. But a current accident northbound 170 at 70 has the right lanes blocked, and that's created a jam. We just had an accident reported. Oh, now they're saying it's a stall. Westbound 70 on the ramp to TR Hughes. Now, as far as westbound 70 goes out of downtown, it's fine. Little bit of volume past the airport and past 94 and at Wentzville, but it's all moderate. Southbound 170 slowing at 64, which has some volume out of Clarkson. 55 is in good shape, and southbound 270, just moderate volume in pockets from Olive through Gravois. On the Illinois side, the slow-moving traffic is eastbound 64, 111 to 157. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Weather has been pretty mild, no severe thunderstorms here recently. They can always happen, though, in the spring and in the summer in St. Louis. They could bring power lines down with it. That's why I want you to get a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator from Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. All they do is generators. They're going to help you make sure that your home is energy independent. You don't have to worry about calling Ameren. You don't have to worry about the food spoiling. It gives you peace of mind, 24-hour monitoring. And the monitoring and the maintenance is really important because they're going to do, just like an HVAC system or oil changes with your car, you have to make sure you stay on top of it. There's certified service maintenance and warranty work that they offer that competitors simply can't. Generator Supercenter, again, is the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. They're out in Chesterfield on the airport road. You can drop in person. You can call 314-499-2020 or just visit the website and investigate a payment plan. They have financing, low monthly payments available. It's worth your time and investment. Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com. And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. in the monologue, I mentioned that the Brewers were playing today, and there was a picture from a guy I used to work with up at WTMJ up there, Doug Russell, and they had a big tarps off crew up there at Miller Park. And I said, no, we let the Brewers steal us from the Cardinals. We can't do this. And somebody chimed in and said, disagree. Everyone knows where it started and should continue through MLB, get fans engaged again, hopefully no lockout in 2027. I agree with the guy. I told him, look, I was kind of joking. I think it's great for baseball. I don't care personally if people steal it, because I think we need something like this in Major League Baseball. And to that guy's point, who just said hopefully no lockout, that's the key. That's what we're all worried about. Don't screw something up after momentum where you get baseball and fans, and younger fans in particular, excited, mind you, with their shirts off, but that's okay.
Right.
Somebody just told me that there was an usher that may have taken her shirt off on Monday.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to track that information down
I
right
bet.
there. There is this incredible story that's on Fox Digital today, an Outkick from Jackson Thompson, which is about the fallout of the San Jose State University volleyball scandal. We've talked about this before with Brooke Slusser and, the trans player. And now we're finding out some of the details that there was maybe even some coordination in trying to hurt the cis player by the trans player. And I can't even believe I just used the word cis. But Jackson Thompson is with us this afternoon at Outkick. Hey, Jackson, how are you? Welcome to 97.1 FM Talk in St. Louis.
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. This is really mind-blowing stuff. I read the whole piece earlier, and I know this case, and, we've talked about it to a certain extent. So maybe just kind of start with an explanation of what the background is and what happened here with this team, and then we can get into some of the, the details that have just emerged now in this case.
Yeah, so back in 2024, right around the time of the election, this scandal went public. And what it was is that San Jose State had a transgender volleyball player on the women's team for two years. It was coming up on 2 years. And they did not tell multiple players about it. One of the players who actually ended up in the same apartment is that trans player, ended up filing a lawsuit, brought a ton of attention. Brooke Slusser, you've talked to her. She's done a ton of interviews. And it really kicked off this mega wave of attention and scrutiny and debate, right, on this issue right before the election. And over the last year and a half, more and more details have been leaking out. And I was able to obtain the full findings that the Trump Department of Education got when they investigated this whole situation. San Jose State and the entire California State University system is suing to challenge these findings. And they're saying it's not true. The entire investigation, they said they were simply complying with the law. But a lot of the things in these files are very shocking, as you may have read. There's certainly, with Brooke Slusser's lawsuit, which includes several other players who used to play in that conference, the findings in these lawsuits, or the findings here in this investigation, really substantiates a lot of the stuff in that lawsuit.
So let me just go over a couple things here. And, I actually had to write myself a little bit of a cheat sheet here with the references to Coach 2 and Coach 3 and Student 1 and Student 3 and Coach 1. So Coach 1 is the head coach, Trent Kirsten. Coach 2 is Todd Kress, who was an assistant. Former assistant Melissa Beatty Smooth is Coach 3, and then Blair, the trans player, is Student 1, and Brooke is Student 3. So the Education Department says that it's undisputed that there was a plan discussed to injure Student 3. That's Brooke. It is disputed whether Students 1 and 9 actually followed through with the plan to injure Student 3, or whether the discussion was just meant as a joke. What is undisputed, however, is that there was a plan discussed to injure Student 3, and that plan to injure Student 3 was discussed by Student 1, and that's Blair, the trans player, and Student 9, that person, we don't know who that is, in the presence of other San Jose State University teammates. And beyond that, they go into some things that happened, to your point, where, the team was being pressured to support the trans player, and the person who's in charge of media relations basically says, we'd like to keep a low temperature 6 weeks from the election. And the students say, I think we're being silenced. And their reaction, and this is very consistent with what Riley Gaines has talked about over the years as well, the senior director of media relations stated, I would like to ask yourself, is this your story to tell? I mean, are you kidding me, right? So a lot of this fits a pattern that's happened at other schools, I think, too. Don't you?
Yeah, and at this point, it absolutely is their story to tell. I don't know how it can't be. They've been directly impacted. Now, it is true that there is a small amount of trans athletes in women's sports. In this case, there was one volleyball player who was trans on the team, but by proxy, that did affect and provide a story to all these other women, not just on San Jose State, but on the other teams, because some of them took some spikes from Fleming. Some of them lost some big games from Fleming. So I would say, you know, Riley Gaines would say it absolutely was their story to tell, and that's why we're seeing a lot of them come forward now. So, you know, really, there's a lot of layers to it, right? That's the biggest thing. Obviously, obviously, there was the school in their actions. These people were following orders to try and stay in accordance with the current policies they had, and they felt like they had to follow. And really, when you talk about the underlying cause of why this whole thing happened and why there has been so much anguish among all these women and even the trans player themselves is because of these rules that were put in place that these employees of these public universities felt as though they had to follow.
So, you know, I think one of the more mind-blowing findings here are really about the recruitment of, you know, Blair, because they make it clear now in the internal email communications provided by the university indicate the head women's volleyball coach contacted the director of San Jose State University's Pride Center and Gender and Equity Center to discuss recruiting a male volleyball player. That's student one, that's Blair, right, for the San Jose State University women's indoor volleyball team. Additional communications indicate Coach 1 stated that student 1 texted him wanting to commit. The findings went on to state that the coach believed to be Kirsten wrote in emails regarding the recruitment that the male player was good enough to make us better and a dilemma on whether to tell rest of the players. I mean, that in and of itself is just shocking. That should have never been something they should be discussing. So how the university thinks they're going to come up on the right side of this is baffling to me, if any of this is even close to the truth.
Yes. Well, the lawsuit against San Jose State is currently alive. It's hanging on by a very, very specific thing that's coming up, and that's the upcoming Supreme Court case.
Right.
It's 2 Supreme Court cases on trans athletes. So Brooke Slusser's lawsuit, which includes a lot of the allegations that were substantiated in these findings, it has a chance to advance on the premise of Title IX violations. And the judge who is ruling on the case said his determination about whether that case advances will not come until after this Supreme Court case, which is supposed to be this month.
Yeah, we could have that any day. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Jackson,
and even go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, even if the Supreme Court does rule in favor of women, it's not guaranteed that the judge will still advance the case, but he'll consider it at least.
Keep us posted. Great reporting here. I really appreciate you coming on here in St. Louis, too.
Of course. Have a good one.
Yeah, take care. I wanted to read from a little bit more of this reporting because really, this is quite something. You know, I mentioned, you know, Coach 3 is identified as Melissa Beatty-Smooth, who is a former assistant coach. She says that she was specifically instructed by the other assistant coach, Todd Kress, okay, to and the senior athletics director for student wellness and leadership to not tell anyone either on the team or off the team that student 1 is male. Coach 3 states that she was also told anyone who disagrees with student 1 being on the women's volleyball team needs to get therapy and needs to leave San Jose State University. This is unreal.
Wow.
So, you know, when this came out, the Title IX violation, they go to work with their lawyers, like Jackson was saying, and they're going to try to fight this. But I'm telling you, if you dig into the reality of this, and by the way, it's all you know this isn't fantasy because this fits the entire narrative that Riley Gaines and Jen Say and me and a lot of other people have been talking about Jamie Reed for years now. And this is one of the more egregious cases, though, that has happened across the whole country. But, Sue, you can't tell me that, you know, this is exactly what happened with Leah Thomas. These girls were brought in, same narrative here. A lot of the people on the team, were very concerned. They thought that they were being lied to, and mainly because they were lied to, but then they were pressured essentially to say, and this is what Riley and the others, Olivia Krochek will tell you, that what the administration, the coaches say is that this is bigger than you. This is bigger than you, a bigger moment, and you need to support this or you're the bad person on this. It's just utterly ridiculous.
And especially in volleyball, where at least swimming, you're in different lanes, this endangers people.
The plan was to literally smash Brooke Slusser in the face. And no, they want to say, oh, that was just a joke.
No, we were kidding.
Well, really? I don't think so. And we don't trust your narrative on this. It's really shocking.
Well, I'm looking at the accident here, northbound 170 at 70, and they've got the right lanes blocked. Only one left lane getting by, and we've got multiple emergency vehicles on the scene. I hope this isn't too serious, but we have a jam behind it. So if you are a northbound 170 driver, traffic is jammed, not quite back to the Rock Road, but definitely to Natural Bridge. Now, 370 westbound is slow at 94, that due to road work. Westbound 70, moderate volume here and there on your way on out west of 270 to the 64 split. 64 westbound slowing at Clarkson and a little bit at 94 and again at the 70 split. And southbound 270 has slow pockets, mainly moderate, but it's Page down through Doherty Ferry and some slow-moving traffic on the Illinois side. 64 at 255 and also 5570 64 at the split there. This report is brought to you by by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. And they have the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis. The latest, most custom designs. It's right there in Chesterfield Valley. There you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. Sue Thomas with traffic, 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, I want to talk to those of you who might be a little cash poor right now. Maybe you have some expenses that have gotten out of control. You can tap into the equity in your home with the help of Stewart's American Mortgage. Now, you might say, wait a second, I have a low rate. Why do I want to refi into a higher rate? Well, with Stewart and the bagel loan, you pay zero in fees that other lenders charge for. So if you refi, and by the way, like, what would be the harm in texting or calling Stewie and just doing the math? You know, maybe it doesn't work out, but if you're interested in, first of all, great customer service, no appraisal fees, no closing costs, no title fees, no broker fees, close in as little as 10 days. They can help you out with that. Now, this is another incredible offer for you. This is really for a limited time. If you're a customer that is purchasing a home, so not on refi here, but to purchase a home, he's offering you a 1% discount on that interest rate for the first year. So for the first year of your new loan, you're going to lock at a 1% lower rate on a 30-year mortgage and still get the bagel loan. That is a great, great offer, limited time from Stewart's American Mortgage. Again, his phone number, 314-324-4440. You can always just Google the bagel loan. NMLS number 226715. Oh, hang on, ladies and gentlemen. We have Insect News, a rare edition of Insect News coming up here after 4 o'clock. If you've never experienced Insect News as a fan of the Mark Reardon Show, you have no idea the thrills that this will provide you here in about, I might be overhyping it just a little bit. But no, it is a lot of fun, and I have some good stuff. I really have a lot of things that I haven't even gotten to this afternoon. We're going to have another swing at the bat with our friend Josh Kraushaar, 97.1 FM Talk Political Insider. We had him on the other day, and we had a bad cell phone signal. He's going to be on a landline. You know what's funny about that is that, believe it or not, and we'll see how this kind of works, but sometimes landlines are even worse these days. I don't know if it's because of the internet, because it's Wi-Fi, or what, but we'll see. Hopefully, Josh does Kilmeade's show quite a bit. He does it once a week. Might have been yesterday morning when he was on, and he always sounds great there. So I don't know what happened, but he's going to do the landline. That's coming up in a little bit. We're going to get a visit in the studio this afternoon. I'm very excited about this. It kind of came up relatively quickly. Gabe Gore, who is the St. Louis Circuit Attorney, he's been in the office for 3 years now. He has launched several major initiatives over the past year, including the Citizens Academy. I'm very curious to hear about that because, Sue, we did the FBI Citizens Academy.
Yeah, so incredible.
Maybe this is similar. I don't really know. Something called the Performance Data Dashboard, which includes like this interactive map showing pending case activity neighborhood by neighborhood. So really, here's how I know that Gabe is doing his job, is we never talk about him.
Exactly.
Right? We don't have to complain. And the cops on the street have at least, they have a lot more confidence than the people that they are going to arrest and, prosecute will actually be charged and something will happen.
Taken off the street.
That's why, that's why this whole 60 Minutes thing really hits, I think, me hard and those of us in St. Louis, because they screwed that whole Kim Gardner story up so much, CBS did. And, there's never apologies that are made. These things live in infamy because they're up online. So, the challenge that I gave to some people yesterday is go online and find the episode. I should find out what it was called and what the date was when Bill Whitaker did the interview and did the story about Kim Gardner, and just watch that and tell me if that relates to in any way, shape, or form the truth. And, the other thing I say about Minneapolis, because we just followed another one of these ridiculous George Floyd anniversaries, and we saw mayors and people like Mamdani that were taking more time to recognize a drug addict criminal than they were American soldiers who, fell in the line of duty. And it's just outrageous. And my challenge to anyone, and man, I would love for one of these whiny, even my former journalism professors, I would dare them to watch just the first 20 minutes of Liz Collins' documentary, The Fall of Minneapolis. And you tell me, you could watch the first 10 minutes. I've told this to people, and some of you out there have taken my advice. You know that in the first 10 minutes, certainly the first 20 minutes of that documentary, you will see things that you will say, why was I not shown this on the CBS Evening News? Why didn't ABC and CNN show me this? I have a question. I don't even know why Fox didn't show some of it, because there was stuff that's in the documentary that would have really, I think, changed the whole narrative if Fox had touched it. And I don't know if they thought it was too politically maybe, because I'm telling you what they have in the documentary. A simple thing is they have an arrest in the first part of the movie and George Floyd being stopped, maybe even, I don't want to get the timetable wrong, but it was well before what happened with Derek Chauvin and the death. And he was saying the same thing. He's in the front seat of the car. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. He was saying, I can't breathe inside the convenience store that he was ripping off. Right? So that was one of the biggest miscarriages of justice, and it will never be corrected. That guy, Derek Chauvin's going to rot in prison. And, here again, I don't understand why criminals are held up as heroes by Democrats. Mike Brown, George Floyd included. Baffling to me.
There is an accident on northbound 170, really close to 70, and they've got only the left lane getting by. There are a couple of fire trucks. The ambulance is gone, but only the left lane getting by has left us with a jam behind it. Back past Natural Bridge, it's getting closer to the Rock Road, but it really is a delay through there. Southbound 170 slowing, headed for 64. Westbound 70, some moderate volume past the airport and at Wentzville. 64, moderate volume now, Hampton out through McCausland. Eastbound is slowing, 170 through Big Bend, and westbound slows again past Clarkson, one more time at 94, and Also at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. You know where the real volume is? On the Illinois side. We've got so much road work over there. 5570 westbound, they've been working at Exchange. Heavy traffic back across the Poplar. 70 eastbound slows at 64. Eastbound 64 slow 111 to 157. This report brought to you by Overhead Door Company of St. Louis. What you need to do is call them for their 26-point tune-up. One price for up to 3 garage doors and openers. Always look for the genuine original red ribbon. Schedule online, overheaddoorstlewis.com. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Wow, it was quite a day on Wall Street. I will tell you that. Let me give you the final numbers because I want to talk about Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group. Yeah, the market was up 874 points. It closed at 51,561. The NASDAQ down just slightly. But look, you don't know what's going to happen with the stock market in the future. We know that there are wars going on. There's things that affect the market. There was maybe an indication that there's a deal today. That's why the market reacted positively. But Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group would love to sit down with you. We do another group setting seminar here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be on the 16th, and these are free. All you have to do is let us know that you're coming so we can save a spot. We used to do these at Plaza Frontenac. We've moved them out a little further west, the Doubletree by Hilton off of Swingley Ridge Road. Great location. So June 16th, a Tuesday, in less than 2 weeks, 6:30 p.m. It's like an hour and 15-minute commitment. You're going to learn something that night. Maybe you have a little bit of a vibe with the team. Maybe you want to take it to the next level. Maybe you don't, but you won't know until you get in that room and visit with Thomas and the team. RetirementKey.com. Get signed up today, and we'll see you on the 16th.
Presidential prediction. Lisa Brady, Fox News, made a short time ago in the Oval Office as President Trump faced another round of questions about ending the conflict with Iran.
I think we're doing very well, but we're going to see if we're going to win one way or the other. We're going to win on paper, or we're going to win military. One way or the other. It's going to be militarily or on paper.
The president repeating that he will not let Iran have a nuclear weapon. He posted earlier that last night's war powers vote in the House aimed at ending military action was meaningless and unpatriotic as efforts to negotiate continue. Ukraine's President Zelensky calling for face-to-face talks with Russia's leader in an open letter to President Putin, also criticizing his more than 26 years in power and warning that history will remember the war as a personal choice by Putin without a real cause. President Trump just telling reporters,
I think it would be great if they met. They should get it done.
Adding that compromises are needed. President Zelensky is proposing to meet with Putin in a neutral third country. President Trump taking questions after announcing he'll use the Defense Production Act for a $700 million plan to help keep existing coal plants operational, restart one plant, and build 2 new ones.
We wouldn't have the buildings, the factories, the industry, the electricity grid we have today without the critical contribution of coal. It's been the largest source of global electricity for 125 years in a row.
Energy Secretary Chris Wright says reliable energy sources help save lives and jobs. The Sierra Club accuses the administration of rewarding polluters and jeopardizing public health. The homicide convictions of 2 paramedics are tossed out in Colorado over jury instructions, so both will get a new trial. Those paramedics had been convicted in the ketamine overdose death of Elijah McClain after he was pinned down by police. America is listening to Fox News.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Thinking about starting your GLP-1 journey? Go to orderlymeds.com/radio. Get access to proven GLP-1 medications, licensed providers, and a plan built for real life. All online. No guesswork, no wasted time. Just real people, real answers, real momentum, and support that actually lasts. Join thousands already seeing results. Start now at orderlymeds.com/radio. orderlymeds.com/radio. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for details.
Well, we're not quite there to Friday, but we're getting very, very close. That means we'll have a Reardon Roundtable tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour. It's former State Senator Jeff Smith, who is going to be here on the left, and Greg Keller, fire-breathing conservative, on the right. That's always a great time with those two guys. We'll have a lot of fun tomorrow on the Roundtable. I have a couple things I want to do here. We have Sue's News coming up in a few minutes. Josh Kraushaar at the bottom of the hour. I just ran across a story that came on my iPad from Apple News, and I was actually unfamiliar with this this particular situation. But the story starts this way, and I was thrown off because it said, by now you've surely seen the headlines, and I have not, and I don't know if you guys have. On May 22nd, a 7-year-old boy made it to the top of El Capitan in Yosemite.
What?
Yeah.
No.
So I hadn't heard about this. So they say in the past week, various news outlets, Fox, People have reported on Joey Danger Evermore, who spent 5 days jugging up El Caps alongside with his dad, Joe, and his 11-year-old brother. When the group summited around 1 a.m. that Friday, Joey became the youngest person in history to ascend El Cap, breaking a record set by an 8-year-old in November of 2024. So it's not the first time that this has happened.
Wow.
But I guess, and this is the guy who writes this story, says typically when climbing records are broken, climbing reporters like me are quick to celebrate and share the details. But this one felt different. From my view in Yosemite, where I'm based for the season, most of the climbers I know regard the ascent, and specifically the dad in the equation, with dismissal or disdain. Because I guess there were rumors, people were saying it's all for publicity, it's such a junk show, the kids were crying the whole time.
Oh.
The dad's got this weird conservative agenda. Now, I don't know what's true or what's
Fred
not.
is skeptical.
I'm not skeptical of that, the fact that they did it. I'm skeptical, or I'm like kind of upset with the dad that he would let his kid do that, or make his kid do it.
I assume he was.
I mean, how dangerous is it?
Super dangerous. And how did he do it, Mark? You know what I mean? Did he have his kid tied to him the whole time?
Let me just say this, okay, just so I can be honest with you. I just found this story, and it's pretty detailed, because what he does is, this reporter basically says that he spoke with one of the guides who agreed to, be interviewed in exchange for anonymity. And there were a couple other people who are like mountaineering experts, if you will. And he says, what I found was a complicated picture of media, climbing achievement, and parenting, and a much bigger story than what's been told. So there have been other kids that have done this, and he goes into great detail about some of the other stories that have happened with kids, and goes back to this particular adventure as well, but it's real detailed. So let me, this might actually be something we do on the air next week, because this guy has done a very, very detailed story. His name is Sam McElwain. And Fred, I can send this to you. I literally kind of accidentally found it here, so I don't have all the answers to your questions, Sue, and I apologize for that. But yeah, the gun instinct would be, wait a second, okay, if the kid's into it and if it's relatively safe because you have equipment on that will, in theory, they're not doing what that Alex, kid did where he's free solo, which, by the way, that movie is incredible.
Yes.
It really is.
If you haven't watched it, make that for weekend plans.
So most of the people who do this, they, there's a lot of protective gear and equipment and stuff like that. But I don't know. Let me read the whole story and see, because as he indicated, the takeaway I think that he had was certainly that it's a lot more complicated maybe than he even thought to begin with. So we'll see what happens with that.
Are you going into second grade when you're 7? I mean, that is young.
7, yeah.
6, 7, 7, 8. So going into
second or third grade. That is young. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Wow.
I'll hold off a little bit on my judgment
There's
just to
some
see if
video.
there's new information.
It's interesting.
Well, everybody's buzzing about it that's in that world, right?
Well, I
and
can
that's
see why. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, let's see here. What else we were going to do? I got to find my my fun sounder here, and I can never do it when I really need it because it is a rare, rare afternoon, and we know this doesn't happen all the time where we have insect news, ladies and gentlemen. Where the hell is my stupid sounder, you guys? This is like the worst thing ever. I was all ready to do this.
You did it earlier.
I know I did it earlier, so why can't I find it right now? Ethan's going to come in here and embarrass me because he's going to show me right where it is. Here it is. I just found it as he walked in. So let's ignore that the previous 45 seconds happened, and let's do this right now.
It's time for Insect News.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Are you ready for this one?
I am.
I love this. This is listen to the way that ends. That is a brilliant sounder. Ryan Wiggins helped put that together. Did you hear the buzzing at the end?
I did.
Just fades out like an old rock song from the 1970s, The long fade. It's an art that is really missing in modern music. All right, so here it is. Google is seeking EPA approval to release up to 64 million sterilized male mosquitoes in California and in Florida over 2 years to drive down the population of the disease-carrying insects. Here's the deal. Didn't know this.
They won't. I get it.
Male mosquitoes don't bite. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's the
just
ladies.
The females, right. So they say a new study estimates that 18.2 million Californians live in a region where conditions are likely suitable for local dengue transmission. That's how you pronounce it, like dengue fever or something like that. Dengue, that's it. Thank you, Fred. I knew it was dengue, like I said the first time. No,
yeah.
So they Google is seeking to release 64 million sterilized male mosquitoes, according to the notice in the Federal Register. It's part of an ambitious effort to curb the diseases the insects spread. Google says it can harness technology to optimize a concept that's been around for decades, but hasn't been successfully scaled with mosquitoes to rein in the disease. So they say, for example, the process involves separating the insects by sex to isolate the males. Currently, that's done manually and time-consuming. That sounds like it would take forever, right?
Good Lord.
Yeah. Google says and this is like a Tech Talk Tuesday topic with George, because they say it's developing new technologies that combine sensors, algorithms, and novel engineering to take advantage of unique aspects of mosquito biology to quickly and accurately sort males from females. The company also says it's building software and monitoring tools to guide releases of sterile males. And the scientists and engineers that they're working with are creating sensors, traps, and software to decide which areas need to be treated and treated again. I mean, this is really fascinating when you think about it. And it's always a topic like this that leads me to, my personal conclusion about my life, which is all I'm doing is opening my big mouth on the radio. And these are people that are studying these really cool things and coming up with solutions to problems that we never thought might exist. But I guess one of the things that's happened in California is this is a very specific type of mosquito. And I'm not going to try to really pronounce it, but they're native to Africa, but they've infiltrated half of the counties in California. They found them first in 2013. So it's not only the bites that are crazy, we all hate that, but there are diseases, including dengue, Zika, chikungunya, and yellow fever.
Chikungunya.
You
That's
know all
right.
these things. How do you know
They're
chikungunya?
medical terms.
He's the health
Oh, he's the
guy.
health editor
And it
of
was one of the
KMOX.
spelling bee words, chikungunya. One of the final spelling
Was
bee
it really?
words. It was, yeah.
Chikungunya sounds something I could get like at a Thai restaurant or something like that. I think it sounds good. So the plan is to infect males, which again don't bite, and I think maybe I didn't know that, with bacteria called, Fred, what's the bacteria called?
Dengue?
No.
Oh,
you know all this.
Give him
you say it wrong and I'll correct you.
Wolbachia.
Don't know it.
Wolbachia. Well, we're going with Wolbachia, which effectively renders them sterile. Then they're released. They seek out wild females and they mate. The females will lay eggs, but they will not hatch, which experts say drives down the population over time. They say that there are other methods to sterilize male mosquitoes. Vector-controlled districts serving Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino counties have released these males in recent years, and they've kind of tried smaller versions of this. But they say that they saw in Los Angeles, the vector-controlled district where they did this, 2 neighborhoods, sort of like a little
like
bit
a
of
test area.
80% reduction in the female population in 24 and 25.
Sold. I mean, why not try it? And what'd you say, California? Perfect.
Yeah. If Google moves, now this is kind of like it sounds like maybe we're doing it, maybe we're not, but it says if Google moves forward, it wouldn't be the first time it's been involved in such an effort. So they say in 2018, they conducted something releasing 14.4 of these infected males into 3 neighborhoods. And they say at peak mosquito season, the number of female mosquitoes were 95.5% lower in release areas compared to non-release. So that means, that sounds like it works. And it says the most geographically isolated neighborhoods reached a 99% reduction. So they've been studying this for a while, and they've done this, in these smaller populations. But now it's 64 million mosquitoes that are sterilized and separated with all this AI technology that are going to bring the mosquito population down.
I think that's ingenious.
It really is.
It really is.
Especially it seems like it works. I feel like, and maybe I'm going to jinx myself on this, but I feel like I just haven't had issues with mosquitoes in my life in the last few years. Like, I have a lot of vegetation in my backyard, but it's over my fence and by the creek. And like, if I'm just hanging out on the deck or something like that, or on the patio, they never seem to bother me.
Oh, my gosh. I always just get bitten. By the way, a mosquito, what do you think the lifespan is of a female mosquito?
3 days.
56 days.
56? Well, that's...
The male, 10 days.
That's it.
So all of this is mind-blowing to me. So they're only alive for 10 days, but they managed to get them with this stuff and have them mate, and so nothing happens, and then no females are produced.
Right.
And it's wow.
But again, this is a very specific type of mosquito too. So I'm the way I interpret that story is like if they tried something like that here, they couldn't necessarily do it unless they would specifically breed our type of mosquito. Does that sound right? You're the health editor, Fred. You tell me.
Fred, you know
I'm just
all the
trying to use
answers.
common sense.
Yeah.
You're out of my lane.
All right, well, that's all right. I don't think we have to worry about it in Missouri anyway. It's hard for me to believe Governor Kehoe is going to okay millions of dollars to release mosquitoes, right?
The only thing about that is when you introduce stuff from like different continents, it doesn't always go well.
Oh, no.
There's something we haven't thought about.
I've thought about it. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. We're going to develop mosquitoes the size of dinosaurs. They're going to wipe out the planet. That's what's going to happen. Come on, man.
Exactly, man. Northbound 170 is slowing. There was an accident north of 70, and they've had the right lanes blocked. That continues to be the case. Looks like a tow truck is on the scene, only the left lane getting by. 2 fire trucks there, and a jam behind it back past Natural Bridge. The other heavy traffic is on the Illinois side. And 5570, there's work at Exchange. It's caused a jam back across the Poplar Street Bridge. And eastbound 64 jams at 255.
Hang on, though. I want you to, will you play along with me here
for
a second? You have a sponsorship coming up, right?
Oh, boy.
I'm going to do something here. Ready? Here we go.
It's time for Insect News.
I think the sponsorship applies. You want to give it right there? Here you go.
Yeah, this report is brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas. That's Traffic 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Gave me an opportunity to play the sounder twice. We have Josh Kraushaar coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Gabe Gore, St. Louis Circuit Attorney, who's been in office for 3 years, is going to join us in studio just after 5 o'clock. We got to do this afternoon on a Thursday.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
I am really excited about this marathon Olympic trial coming in 2028.
Yeah,
Are you going to volunteer?
Yes.
Give people the details, because this was just announced earlier today.
We get to host that. St. Louis gets to host the 2028 U.S. Olympic team trials in the marathon. And it's going to be super cool. They're going to start at Wash U, where the 1904 Olympics started. That's where they had the opening ceremonies for the 1904. They're going to take them past the Arch. They'll take them into Forest Park.
Beautiful.
And they're going to end at the soccer stadium. That's what it sounds like. So I'm trying to figure out how I can volunteer.
Well, you can maybe get some Kevlar ready for some of the runners as they go through downtown.
Why do I even try, Fred? Why do I even try?
Okay.
I did not.
Sorry. No, I do. I think this is awesome. I really do. I think it's great. I wish
exciting.
I wish we would have more track and field events. It would be fun to see those.
Yeah, it really would. So if anybody knows how to volunteer, let me know. I would like to do that. All right, on this day in history, 130 years ago, it's 1896, and Henry Ford got up. It was in the nighttime. It was after the sun went down, and he thought, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to do the test run of my horseless carriage. That's right. In 1896, he did a nighttime drive through the streets of Detroit. 130 years ago today. That's pretty
crazy.
cool.
I guess he had headlights.
I guess.
I mean, or a flashlight
Well,
or a camera.
no,
Maybe
I think
not.
he did. I think that was a pretty soon one of the first things to come out, because you really did. That was an improvement over the horse, right?
The horse didn't have a headlight.
Exactly. And 110 years ago today, the plans for the new Bevo Mill restaurant on Gravois were announced in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. How about that?
Let me tell you, when I lived in South City, I would go over there. There were a couple of different incarnations of people trying to keep that place alive.
Oh, it's alive.
What's the status of it right now?
Das Bevo.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've been there for several wedding receptions.
Yeah.
And it's a very nice place. Very
When
good.
can you go on a daily, just to get food there, or is it more for special events?
I think it might be special events.
I mean, it's an awesome place, and
They have
like
a
you
beer
said,
garden
a lot of history.
outside,
That's
too.
true, too. They were having live music and a beer garden outside, so I'm not sure. But the story goes that August A. Bush chose a spot halfway between the brewery and his house.
That's right.
And that's how they did it. He wanted it to be a high-class restaurant. And he named it after Bevo, which was Anheuser-Busch non-alcoholic beer at the time.
I didn't know that.
Uh-huh. And 89, I don't know why I was going to say 86, years ago today, in 1937, Oklahoma City grocery store owner Sylvan Goldman invented the shopping cart. It is it's 89 years ago. So I had to Google it and say, what were people using? They said, you just bring in what you got. If you had a box, you'd put it in there. It was, they had little hand baskets, but nobody had come up with
But I wonder
big
what the first
cart.
shopping cart looked like.
Ooh,
I bet
that's
it
a
didn't look
good
exactly
question.
like
I think
what
they
we see
still
today.
use them at Walmart.
No, they have good. Although the one I had this morning, I was actually there today, had a front wheel issue. So they have a lot of carts at Walmart, man. Those racks that they pull those carts
do
into
have a lot.
is a lot. That's interesting though.
Yeah,
I love that today in history.
It's only 89 years old. Happy Hug Your Cat Day, Mark. I think you're the one with the cat in here.
Three cats, yes.
Yeah, hug
I
all
love
of
all
them.
my cats. Well, my cat Shadow is very, very particular. She's called Shadow, I think, for a reason. But she's not one I can just pick up and hug. She has to come to me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
She's a lady.
Well, so Becky was out of town this week, and she literally, and this is very rare for Shadow. She literally was crawling on top of my chest and rubbing her head into my. But I mean that's because I was lying in bed on my back, and Max, my dog, was right next to me, and I just kind of didn't even move my hands. But she's
Afraid she'll move.
She's skittish, very skittish. Yeah.
Well, it's also National Cheese Day, which I'm happy about.
Oh, yeah.
According to a new survey, 52% of Americans self-identify as cheese obsessed. Fred, is that you?
I would like cheese as a present. It's a good thing.
I like cheese.
Yeah.
Did you just say you'd like cheese as a present?
Well,
I kinda
people
like
say, what
that.
do you want for Christmas? Like, I don't know. Cheese assortment.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, let me tell you something. My grandfather was a cheese. He liked super, super sharp cheddar, black diamond.
Ooh.
And so, my mom and her sisters, she had a couple of sisters and a brother, and they would all try to send him stuff when he was in his 90s for Christmas. And finally, he just called them and said, don't need it, sending it back. Don't need it, sending it back. Keeping the cheese. So every year.
I love that.
That's
See?
going to be me.
That's
I was
Fred.
gonna say, Fred, there's your future.
That's it.
I love. By the way, I'm a sharp cheddar guy, but I don't go into the extra sharp very often.
I'm a mild.
Are you?
Are you?
Yeah.
Huh. It seems like as a German, you should get a little hardcore in there, Fred. Try the medium. Just go out on the edge.
Okay.
They say that 16% say they're constantly eating cheese. What? 61% consume it often or sometimes. Only 3% say they never eat cheese. I know someone who does not eat cheese. It drives his wife nuts. She can't put it
wonder
on
who that is.
anything. It's not me.
Oh, it's not
No.
Can you name the person or not?
Well, it's a relative of mine.
okay.
Yeah, I can. She's not. Yeah, she's in Houston. One of my nieces, her husband will not eat cheese, and she's got 3 little boys, and she's like, everybody loves cheese but Dad, so she can't.
Oh, he doesn't like any cheese?
Nothing.
Okay.
And I think it's a mental block, and I want to get him past it.
It's got to be.
But of course, nobody said that Aunt Sue should get him past it. So I'm.
Nobody said
trying
Aunt
not
Sue
to.
should slip the cheese to the husband
Right.
and see if he's
But how does
faked
that
out.
happen? Is it a texture issue?
Maybe a smell and texture
Maybe a
thing.
smell. Maybe
Yeah.
you're right, but maybe Mom prepared it poorly one day. I didn't eat broccoli for years because it was
That's right.
overcooked.
Me neither. Or Brussels sprouts. Ooh. No, I love them, right?
Exactly. All right, Garth Brooks, if you want to start some of that, was honored with the Artist of a Lifetime Award last night. This is by the recording industry.
Was this in Nashville or New York? You know?
Stand by.
Okay.
Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined your black tie affair.
I
still
don't know. I
remember-
was reading further to find the
I
answer
still
for
remember
you.
it was a Sunday afternoon when Garth was here last time, I think, and I think he did 2 shows. And my friend Johnny Holzum called me or texted me, hey, I got an extra ticket for Garth. And there aren't many bands that I would have to say no to because my wife would be so extremely jealous. Like most times she'd say, yeah, go have fun, like Triumph. She wasn't into
Yeah.
them. I didn't say yes to that because I knew I'd be in trouble. But I've never seen him because of that.
Okay, I was in country music for all those years. I've met all kinds of those 90s and 2000 artists. But he was in his Chris Gaines phase.
Oh, that phase,
When I had
yeah.
a chance to meet him. And so he was weird, and he
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
there that time.
Fred,
so
you don't
I
remember
I don't know
that.
what that means.
Oh, yeah, he went through a phase where he called himself Chris Gaines and dyed his hair dark, and he was trying
How
to...
did I miss that?
I remember it, but I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, he has 10 albums that are certified diamond, which means they've sold at least 10 million units. 10 albums that have done that.
That's insane.
It
It
is.
really is. That, and no one will ever do that again because
I
you don't
know.
buy albums, right?
Exactly. It probably also helps, though, that he sells so many CD box sets. But still, let's see. Even his last album, Time Traveler, was only sold in a CD box set, which contained other albums like Triple Love. And that one has now reached diamond status. Anyway, Garth says it's not about the numbers. It's about the music, Fred. And in other Garth news, he's reportedly looking to sell the rights to his catalog for, are you ready?
700 million.
Fred.
400 million.
He might be able to get $1 billion.
$2 billion.
Okay.
Wow.
Look,
$2 billion.
based on what I know about the other artists' catalogs, that might be a little high, but maybe not too far from what he might get because that is a big catalog, and there are people that are getting 5 and 6 at this point. So that's why I went to $1 billion. But that's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is interesting. I've got, well, we'll just say it's coming up tomorrow. We're going to hear somebody has taken some Post Malone hits and turned them into lullabies.
Okay.
We'll have that tomorrow. Posty. You know I like to play
Of
Posty.
course.
And finally, in Sue's news, we have today's random fact. There is a new baby zebra at the St. Louis Zoo, if you want to Google it. And they say, are zebras white with black stripes or black with white stripes? Well, according to science, their skin and their default hair color is black. And those white stripes are created by the lack of production of melanin in those striped areas. So zebras are black.
Do we have a name for our new zebra?
Probably, and I don't remember.
We will try to figure it out.
I'm Dan Loney with Your Money Now. An interesting step involving the world of crypto and real estate. A Michigan couple has been issued the first crypto-backed conventional mortgage. Better Mortgage and Coinbase issued the Fannie Mae-backed mortgage. Payments are made off of the couple's Bitcoin, which they expect to appreciate and continue to pay the monthly payments. Unfortunately, Bitcoin has been in a slump lately. Prices of cryptocurrency continued to fall today, off almost 3% at 63,400. That pullback also carried over to its colleagues in the sector like Robinhood and Coinbase. Shares of discount retailer Five Below were down more than 13% today, despite posting a better than expected forecast for the current quarter. Revenue is expected around $1.2 billion, with same-store sales growing to 7 to 9%, which is better than projections of a 4.4% gain by Wall Street. Markets were mixed today. Dow Industrials, though, with a record close, up 874 points at 51,562. That's Your Money Now.
From the FIFA World Cup to competitive business environments, grand ambitions lead to game-changing achievements. At Bank of America, we're there to support businesses at every step, providing insights and expertise to help you gain an edge.
He shoots, he scores!
What would you like the power to do? Explore winning business solutions at BofA.com/gamechangers. Bank of America, official bank of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly, heating, air conditioning, electrical, and plumbing. I feel like with my next guest here, Josh Kraushaar, 97.1 FM Talk, political insider, editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider. Do you have like 3 or 4 hours to spend this afternoon? Because there's so much news. There's so much political news. How are you, Josh?
My goodness. The timing is great today, Mark, because the story driving a lot of political conversation in Washington about Graham Plattner, big story just dropped in the New York Times. So there's a lot of developments on Capitol Hill, but there's a lot of political developments in that main Senate race, too.
Yeah, I kind of started the show with that because the New York Times article dropped right before the show started or right as it was starting. And, I think there's, as you know, the last couple of days, there's been a lot of buzz. We knew something else was coming. So the story that we hear is that Graham Plattner went up to Capitol Hill and, was trying to do some meeting and greeting and maybe soothe over some concerns. But one of the questions he was asked is, hey, is there more coming? And I think he might have known there was more coming. So is it maybe now the tipping point where the Oppo research is going to keep probably coming and this guy is going to start falling by the wayside because the Democrats are sticking by him?
Well, look, there have been so many damaging allegations about this guy, Graham Plattner, whether it's Nazi tattoo or his demeaning and attacks of American military servicemen serving in Afghanistan, to misogynistic and bigoted social media posts. And none of it seemed to really dent his political standing. So I would be cautious about jumping. And I also think that there was so much hype about this story, and I read the whole thing. I think it's pretty damaging about his history of abusive relationships. Three ex-girlfriends speak to the New York Times about sort of his issues in their relationship, including one pretty detailed allegation of physical abuse. But look, I think that if there's more where this came from, sure, I think we could do his campaign in. Where things stand now, I think it's very much up in the air. Where I think a lot of voters in Maine are primed to vote Democratic, but you have a candidate with such baggage and such a low personal reputation that it's going to be very, very uncertain where things stand. And by the way, Mark, there's a primary in Maine
next
on
week.
Tuesday.
Right.
So Janet Mills, the state's governor who dropped out of the race, is still on the ballot.
Right.
So we'll get next Tuesday. We'll get a sense of how much damage this has been doing among Democratic voters.
Do you have any indication that there are people that are, I think I've heard this, that they're encouraging people to vote for Mills because of this?
Well, the messaging from Democrats has been all over the map. So some Democrats some senators met with him when he was in town on Tuesday, and they reiterated their support. Chuck Schumer has not backed down from his support of Plattner, but others have been much more cautious. and it's interesting that I think they're waiting to see the next shoe to drop, which has come with the New York Times expose. Look, I will say that. The Plattner campaign has been prepared for this to come out. They have been spinning so far that this is not as much of a bombshell as a lot of people had been anticipating. I think it's plenty damaging, especially when you top it off with all the other problems he's facing. But look, we're in a pretty good Democratic national environment. This is a must-win Senate seat for the Democrats. So I think there could be some degree of partisanship that reasserts itself, even with all the baggage.
But the folks, and I spoke with someone that was up there in Maine yesterday. I mean, there's still the conventional wisdom that in the end, Susan Collins will still win the seat. I know there's risk here, and they want to say that this is maybe more in play. But the insiders in Maine still think that she'll close the deal like she always does. Is that different than what you might think?
Well, all you have to do is look at the betting markets where, Plattner was, 80% chance of winning as of a few days ago. And in the last couple days, as the rumors about this story have circulated, it's now more of a 50-50 proposition. Yeah. Look, Susan Collins, I've covered her, for decades now. She's one of the most battle-tested, popular senators back home. But she's been facing a lot of headwinds this year because Trump is very unpopular in Maine, and there's a desire among Democrats, even more moderate Democrats, that they need to do anything possible to check Donald Trump. And if that means you're voting out Susan Collins so they can retake the Senate, they're going to do that. Plattner has made that proposition very, very difficult because his character is so disreputable, and there's so many documented instances of whether it's the Nazi tattoo, whether it's the sexist and racist postings, whether it's attacking military service. I mean, all these things we've been talking about. It's hard to stomach voting for a guy like that, especially if you're a Democrat who cares about civil rights, inclusivity, and kind of the mainstream views that main Democrats have been known for.
By the way, in the reporting today, and I don't know if it was as big of a bombshell or not, but what I do know is that the Nazi tattoo was also referred to, and that there were women who had made the claim that he knew exactly what that tattoo was, even though he claims that it wasn't. So, I mean, it's kind of common sense. It's hard for me to believe that he didn't know. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the excuses.
Mark, Jewish Insider broke that story months ago that the ex-girlfriend had heard from Plattner that he called it my Totenkopf. That's
right.
How he referred to it. So the New York Times confirms our reporting, and it actually had now the person, the ex-girlfriend, is now on the record with a name. But
well, good job. My apologies for not knowing that. Let's go to California. Look, yesterday I sat here in the day after the jungle primary, and I'm looking at the results. The LA Times, 60%. Today they're up to 62% counted. How about that progress in California, Josh?
I mean, if you want to know why California government is so sclerotic, all you have to do is look at how slow it takes for them to count ballots. It takes about a month for them to actually call races, competitive races in that state, which is so much slower than any other state in the country. And there's just no – I mean, can you imagine if California was an actual swing state and you wouldn't know who was president until California counted its votes?
Right.
You wouldn't have a president by inauguration. You would probably have a situation where you'd have to delay Inauguration Day. It would be a constitutional crisis. The fact that
it's outrageous. It really is.
California, that no one cares about. I mean, and this is a personal. I've been writing about this for many, dating back to a decade, where I was like the one person screaming on how California could be so ineffective in actually counting ballots. And by the way, it's because they have rules in their state that allow ballots to come in after Election Day. Right. I mean, that is something very unusual. It's not done in most other states. So they have the ability for people to cast their ballot. They can mail it before Election Day, but it can come in after Election Day. So it just makes the process so inefficient and ineffective. But it's sort of a metaphor about how California government services work and why so many cities are facing high crime.
Where'd he go?
He just
it's a symbol on why it's kind of remarkable Republicans haven't been more competitive in California, because there's definitely a story to tell about the Democratic Party's one-party rule.
Let me ask you a little bit about President Trump. He held an event earlier. We played some of the Q&A. We had some reporting from earlier this week, and I think it was confirmed by both parties that President Trump kind of yelled at Bibi a little bit, called him crazy. They both came out of it saying, yeah, we can, agree to disagree on some stuff. But where does that relationship stand, and where are we, do you think, in what the president might do when it comes to this war?
Well, Trump is, I feel like we talk about Iran, we have the same stories every week or two, where we're imminently close to a deal that never happens, and maybe we'll do another military strike, but really that's not going to be the case. And look, I think it's pretty clear now that Trump has no appetite to re-engage militarily against Iran. But it's sort of we're at a point where we're in a ceasefire period, yet Iran attacked Kuwait. They fired missiles at their airport 2 days ago. That's not a ceasefire. And there's this I think need for the president to kind of create his own reality about what's happening on the ground for his own political purposes. But the reality is we're really not in a ceasefire. Iran has still closed the Strait of Hormuz. The economy is still suffering as a result internationally, and Iran is attacking our allies in the region. So it really is getting to the point where you're either going to have to put up or shut up, and you may need to have to go back to war to take out Iran's capabilities. But they clearly are playing around, and they clearly are taking advantage of this period where we're trying to project some kind of calm in the region, but that's clearly not what's happening.
Josh, how would you characterize one more topic here? How would you characterize what happened between Republicans on the Hill and President Trump on this $1.8 billion, the anti-weaponization fund, which, by the way, I think now has been scrapped, right? Have they given up on that?
For the most part. We never say never, but that's what Todd Blanche has said, and we'll believe. That's how Republicans in the Senate are proceeding. It goes to show, Mark, that the Republicans that are lame ducks, the ones who lost primaries because of Trump, like a John Cornyn or Bill Cassidy or Tom Tillis, the retiring Republican senator, they're exerting their leverage, and you're seeing more examples of Republicans, not a lot of them, but half dozen, trying to constrain some of the more unpopular parts of what Trump is trying to pursue in the Senate and preventing them from actually passing through Congress.
Yep, they're the ones with no consequences are doing what they can right now. I think that we can admit that. Josh Kraushaar, always great to have you on. We heard you today. We had some problems with the phone line, so it sounded great today. You cut out for just briefly, and you panicked me. I hope all is well. Hey, Cardinals still doing pretty well. How are your Nationals right now?
Yeah, we're doing probably. We're
All right,
both
good.
teams on the rise. I'm looking forward for the series coming up.
I expect that we'll start tailing off a little bit, but look, it's been fun so far, and they're hanging in there. And Jordan Walker, did you say you had him on your fantasy team?
I have
I know
the whole Cardinals lineup, the top
I love
four
that.
hitters. So I'm now a Cardinals fan this year. Yeah,
Awesome!
so,
Glad
yeah.
to have you. Thanks, Josh. We'll see you.
Crews are still on the scene of the accident northbound 170, a little bit past 70. Only the two right lanes are blocked right now, and at one point it was 3. So that's a little bit of an improvement. Traffic, though, is still stacked up behind it. Oh, wait. They've moved it now off to the shoulder. They are opening all lanes. So the jam behind this is going to thin out. Woohoo! Now, eastbound 70. We've got some slow-moving traffic as you head toward Wentzville. There was an accident reported before Z. That has caused a delay. And there seems to be a jam tonight on Highway K. It's slowing in both directions at Feisey Road. It's really slow through there. Now, westbound 70, just moderate volume, Jennings Station Road, past the airport. 64 is Kings Highway out through McCausland, Lindbergh, and then in pockets out through the 70 split. Eastbound isn't too bad yet. A little slow at Big Bend and headed for the Poplar. Now, we've got road work on the Illinois side, 5570 at the 64 split. Traffic is jammed there, and eastbound 64 slows, approaching 157 due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Always a very tough topic to talk about, divorce, and I want to have a conversation with you about Susan L. Ward. She's a family practice attorney that reads, divorce attorney here in St. Louis with a lot of experience. And, the one thing that happens when marriages start to fall apart is people panic, they get very emotional, and sometimes you make decisions that are not going to benefit you in the long run. And that's why one of the first moves you should make is contacting an attorney like Susan L. Ward, because she's been doing this for a long time. They'll prevent you from making mistakes that, really could come back to haunt you. My children were very young, when I went through this myself a couple of decades ago, and you really want to maintain that relationship the best way possible. And it doesn't matter the issues in your case, Susan and her team committed to bringing their experience, their knowledge to make sure you reach the best possible conclusion. She's really good at what she does. They have a beautiful office in Des Peres. They'd love to hear from you. And by the way, I always say this too, it's not just divorce, could be post-divorce issues, modifications, etc. 314-783-9400, the law offices of Susan L. Ward, LLC. The focus on family law and the emphasis on you. STLFamilyLaw.com. Well, the mourning over the firing of Scott Pelley continues in the legacy media. I shall not mourn for Scott Pelley. Actually, somebody has sent me a tweet. Glenn Beck was asking, you know who Cheryl Atkinson is, Sue?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was a reporter. I think she was a CBS reporter. She was on CNN for a while. She kind of went independent about 10 years ago. She was one of those that, kind of got thrown to the side because I think that people realized, her bosses realized she was actually trying to do real journalism. So Glenn asked her if she would, if Barry asked her to go to CBS, would she do that in 60 Minutes? And I just got the tweet, so I don't know what the answer is. She said that maybe she was approached a year ago by some other sources, but she does some really, really good independent journalism out there. We've had her on the show a couple of times, although it's been a bit. So here's some media reaction to the terrible news about Scott Pelley.
This is like an underwater earthquake at CBS News. It's be like Scott Pelley. They're burning it all down because they want to please Donald Trump.
Boycott every thing on CBS News. These people are the biggest bunch of.
I mean, the thing about it is they act like this is, I had to tweet about this too. They act like Barry Weiss is some, left-wing lunatic, or I'm sorry, right-wing lunatic that is beholden to Trump, which nothing could be further from the truth. By the way, I subscribe to the FP. I read the FP every day, and there are plenty of pieces in there that are very, very critical of President Trump. She's just, this is where these folks have gone off the rails. They don't understand that what we're trying to do here is not have a completely different perspective on the news from a right-wing angle. We're trying to get you to be fair and to actually put the facts out there. I mean, it's actually about journalism, not agenda journalism. Now, I said this when I tweeted this because it was Terry Moran that you heard there that said that they're, burning it all down to the ground. But what they don't understand is that agenda journalism is what people don't like. That's what's turned off the American people. What Barry Weiss saw when she was at the New York Times and when she started the FP is, let's see if we can, News Nation is trying to do this too with Leland Vittert. Let's see if we can put a product out there where it's compelling and we have like more than just one side of the story. But you'd think, oh my God, you'd think like they just hired, Graham Plattner to run CBS. How about that? A Nazi. Here's a little bit of reaction from Jake Tapper.
I don't cover news media a lot on the show. I generally think it's navel gazing. I generally think that we have so much to cover. But this story felt different. It felt a little different with Sharon and Cecilia and the executive producer last week. And then this very public kerfuffle with Scott Pelley. This is bigger than just this show and just this channel, don't you think?
A bigger kerfuffle with Scott. You know why? Because Scott Pelley decided to be a jackass at a meeting and make it all about Scott Pelley and not about the future of CBS News. I'm pretty sure that there have to be tough decisions made across all media platforms, not just CBS, but they're trying to change things and move it in a different direction, and they're trying to get people on board with the plan. And look, there's plans. I called 5 years ago, I was hitting golf balls at Family Golf, or about to. It's part of my work day, Sue, as you know.
Of course.
You have to dedicate some time to that. And I pick up the phone, and it's our two bosses here at the time, and they tell me, that they're flipping the shows. And Glover's going over to KMOX, and I'm going over here. And I was thrilled, by the way, when I got this call. But I even said at the time, I'm sensing this is not really up for discussion.
Right.
It's like I was being told what I was going to do because they were my bosses. Now, I could have thrown a fit and said, I'm not going to do it. And I'm pretty sure that I would have been shown the door if that happened. But Scott Pelley did something in what Nick Bilton wrote, the new executive producer at 60 Minutes, who was shown no respect whatsoever, who tried to have a conversation, and so did Barry. Look, Barry said they invited Scott Pelley to dinner. He refused. This is what I think will eventually come out. Look, he knew he was going to get fired. He planned that moment at the meeting. He didn't want to have any part of this, so he wanted to go out as a martyr, right? And in the eyes of the legacy media out there, like here's Terry Moran again, he goes on. All these people that used to be relevant, like on ABC. Terry Moran's the guy. Isn't he the guy that got canned after he did a tweet late at night, drunk tweet about Trump, and he had to tear it down?
I don't remember.
I don't know if he's the best source here.
I don't cover news media a lot on the show.
Oh, wait, sorry, that's Jake again. Here's Terry Moran.
Scott Pelley, my friend, good for you. That's the way you leave a job, with your back straight and your heart full, telling the truth right to their faces. Good for you. What's happening at 60 Minutes and at CBS News is tragic. For more than half a century, 60 Minutes has been the crown jewel of American journalism.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it right there because I love the fact, I am right about this, okay? I love the fact that Terry Moran says, wait, let me just play the beginning again because this is just so perfect. And no one else is going to point this out, right? Come on, Terry, tell me this. Tell me what you're going to say.
Scott Pelley, my friend, good for you. That's the way you leave a job.
That's the way you leave a job. So this is the guy who in June of last year goes on X late at night on a Saturday because he's liquored up, and he calls Stephen Miller and Donald Trump world-class haters whose hatred served as their spiritual nourishment. And, of course, he deleted it right away, and he was fired right away because it was a violation of their company policy. So the guy that got fired for violating the ABC corporate policies and he was wasted one night and puts a tweet out is defending Scott Pelley. I mean, I think that's really all you need to know about the situation, that these guys lick each other's buttholes, pardon my French there, and that's what they do, and it's utterly disgusting. And they've never for a moment, taken just a minute to say, maybe we should do some stories in a little bit more of a fair way. And, I could play this audio, but really I don't want to give any more attention to Scott Pelley. But some people have blasted out a couple of his stories, including the last one he did from 2 years ago on Joe Biden. And if you could just hear the tone and his, it just makes you want to vomit the way that he heaps praise and protects Joe Biden. That's the thing about these journalists. There's different ways to express your bias. And one of the things, and this is not even disputable at this point, what Scott Pelley, what CBS News, what they all did, what the New York Times did, not Barry Weiss, because they saw the writing on the wall, is they all covered up what was happening to Joe Biden's health. They knew what was happening. They saw it firsthand on a regular basis. They tried to sell it differently because they knew if they went with the truth and with the real narrative that would help Trump. The only motivation that they had, it had nothing to do with good journalism or getting the facts right or anything like that, the storytelling. It was all motivated by hatred of Trump. Now, you can still do, and by the way, people who listen to me, I've been very critical of the president. I've called him out on many things, probably more times in the last couple of months. And by the way, so have other conservative pundits, right? They're not just all kissing his butt at this time. And I think more people are kind of falling off, if you want to know the truth. But, it's one thing to be critical in the moment, but everything he does, and he said this himself, the president, he can't do anything that would ever satisfy these people because they're so full of hatred. And now, you got guys like Terry Moran, and I guess Scott Pelley will cross on over to the podcast world to try to be relevant in their martyrdom because that's all they have.
We've got an accident reported eastbound 70 approaching Z, and there's a huge jam behind it. It goes back to David Hochul Parkway. And westbound traffic, of course, is slow in that area as well. Now, westbound 70 out of downtown, mainly it's moderate volume at Jennings Station Road, past the airport, 141. 6440 is heavier, Kings Highway out through McCausland, approaching Lindbergh, and that is in pockets all the way out through the 70 split. Southbound 270, slow pockets approaching Olive, down through Gravois, northbound jams headed for Ladue Road. And boy, do we have heavy traffic on the Illinois side. It's 55, 70, and 64. There's road work nearby, and it's caused a huge jam back across the Poplar and back onto the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge, eastbound 64. Slow approaching 157, and it jams near 111. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
I want to talk about Michael's Flooring Outlet because they do such a great job here in the St. Louis area. And they can help you with your flooring project, and they can do it with a lot of expertise and experience. Mike's been at this for a long, long time. He has great team employees at each of the stores. There are 3 of them in the St. Louis area, Old Town St. Peter's, Darden Prairie, and in West County and Creve Coeur on Olive. And they're going to take great care of you if you have a big flooring project, you have a small project, you want to take some carpeting out, put some hard flooring in, you want to do the opposite, you want to put some really silky, soft Mohawk carpeting in your home. They can help you out with that. But there's a lot of products, and really, this is all about lifestyle. If you have kids, if you have pets, you may want something very, very different. I, at one point, talked to Mike about taking all the carpeting out of my basement, and he said, no, you dummy, that's going to ruin your acoustics. He was actually much kinder than that to me, but it was something I didn't really think about. So they're going to make sure that it fits your lifestyle and your whole situation and take great care of you. IGotFloor.com is the website. Get started there. Michael's Flooring Outlet. That is going to be a lot of fun. November 21st. Gabe Gore, the circuit attorney for the city of St. Louis. He's been on the job for 3 years. In studio after Fox News.
Predicts we will win in Iran. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump with a comment this afternoon saying the victory will happen militarily or on paper. And again saying
they will never have a nuclear weapon.
The president saying we do not need a deal with Iran to obtain their enriched uranium. Yesterday, the president said a deal with Iran could happen by the weekend. On the Russia-Ukraine war, President Trump said it would be great if Ukraine's President Zelensky and Russian President Putin met, as Zelensky in a letter called for direct talks with Putin to end the war.
In an open letter posted on the Ukrainian president's website, Zelensky told Putin, "The choice is yours now. Peace or a prolonged conflict." The long, detailed letter blames Putin personally for the war, but also offers a path forward through direct talks between the two leaders. Zelensky called for a ceasefire, a prisoner exchange, and a negotiated end to the war, while making it clear Ukraine will keep fighting if talks fail.
Fox's Carmen Roberts. Sanctions imposed against Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, his wife, and 3 others, including the son of former Cuban President Raul Castro. The sanctions coming after President Trump signed an executive order expanding sanctions against the island. President Trump invoking the Defense Production Act to gain access to $700 million for U.S. coal plants.
Calls it a great business, really a big business, and it's real power. It's in terms of power, there's really nothing like it.
Money will be used to refurbish and expand coal plants, mines, and an export hub. The president has been critical of alternative energy, including wind farms, claiming coal is much cheaper. Wall Street, the Dow gained 875, reaching another record high. The Nasdaq lost 23. The S&P plus 30 for its 10th gain in the last 11 days. America is listening to Fox News.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Thinking about starting your GLP-1 journey? Go to orderlymeds.com/radio. Get access to proven GLP-1 medications, licensed providers, and a plan built for real life. All online. No guesswork, no wasted time. Just real people, real answers, real momentum, and support that actually lasts. Join thousands already seeing results. Start now at orderlymeds.com/radio. orderlymeds.com/radio. Individual results may vary, not medical advice. Eligibility required. See site for detail.
Well, we're almost to Friday. I think this week's gone by pretty quickly. We have a Reardon Roundtable tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour. We have a great panel. Former State Senator Jeff Smith will be here. Greg Keller on the Republican side. In the 4 o'clock hour, all the fun Friday stuff. Sue will have a Friday's edition of Sue's News. Paul Hall and entertainment. I'm very curious to see. I need some entertainment recommendations because I'm not really streaming anything right now. And there's some stuff coming out in the movie. I told you my daughter asked about the D-Day movie with Brendan Fraser.
That's interesting.
As an 11-year-old, I thought, and it's PG-13, so I may actually take her. I'm like, that was impressive to me.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah.
She knew a little bit about what D-Day was, too. And then tomorrow, on that note, Sue, and this is, you know how excited I am about this project. And it's essentially your father-in-law, the Mayor Grafton, Mike Morrow, put this together. He went to Normandy, and he started looking at, the cliffs over there and the history of D-Day, and he looks at these, cliffs that we have in Grafton, Illinois, that everybody who's ever been over there knows. He says that looks a lot like what those soldiers scaled, in World War II. So he starts on this mission to create this unbelievable memorial, which we dedicated on Saturday morning, right?
It's really an exciting thing.
And it should be a national,
yes, they're hoping
type of thing that people should want to come to this. So, remind me too next week that I need to get this on Kilmeade's radar a little bit more and some of the national guys, because I've been waiting for the moment when, when this is going to become official. And I'm really, really excited. I know Mike is very proud of it, and he should be, because they did some really unique things. This is not your typical memorial,
no,
right?
It is not.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, Peter Savodik coming up a little bit later this hour. We're also going to preview the air show coming up this weekend with Mark Sutherland, and I will have audio cut of the day. We are very thrilled, though, to have in the studio with us this afternoon the St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore, who's been in office now for several years, and I was just asking him some questions about re-election, but you don't have to worry about that for a long time, right? You just were re-elected last year, or elected, because you were kind of appointed to this in the first time, right?
Yep, appointed in May of 2023 and elected in November 2024. So not on the ballot again until 2028.
And that's a good thing. Do me a favor, Gabe. Get real close to that microphone. Some people get a little microphone shy. I want to make sure that people can hear you, because you're a little bit. I know Ethan. I turned him up. Ethan thinks sometimes I don't run the control board, but I really, really do. One of the things I said earlier to the audience, and I think I said it to my crew in here, is one of the reasons I think I know that you're doing a good job is because I never hear about you, Gabe. So I think that's a good thing. But look, we had an office that you come into that was very disorganized, and there were things happening that we all know shouldn't have been happening, and you try to put the pieces back together. So 3 years into this, and I knew you've started some very unique initiatives and things like that, but one of the things that I think from the get-go that was frustrating for a lot of police officers is that they felt that they were making a lot of arrests and that there were charges filed that would not be prosecuted. Is that something that has, to a certain extent, resolved itself? Not resolved itself, but have you resolved it, I guess is what I should say.
Well, yeah, that was, something that obviously we had to get on the right track right away. So we put a lot of work in there. And, at this point, we have things running well. Last year I did the annual numbers. The past 12 months, we've charged 3,500 felonies, which is up, I think, about 300 cases from last year.
That's a lot.
Wow.
And, when I was appointed at that time, there was 6,700 unreviewed warrants for applications for warrants in our warrant office. And now we're at a point where we're getting warrant applications reviewed and charging decisions made on 90% of our cases within 24 hours, which is important.
Yeah, that is important.
When you charge a case within 24 hours and you have someone who represents a danger to the public, that person's held and confined.
If I remember correctly, you brought some folks into the office, right, into the fold, people who had experience that may have, probably arguably had better opportunities elsewhere, but really wanted to serve and to help put you in a position where this office was back on track, right?
Yeah, our office has really been a beneficiary of people wanting to step up and specifically give back to the city of St. Louis, people wanting to step up and restore the Circuit Attorney's Office to its proud tradition. So we've been a real beneficiary of that, as has the St. Louis community.
What's your relationship with the mayor?
Good relationship with the mayor. In fact, I was just at a meeting with the mayor on Tuesday. Once a month, she has a meeting with county electeds. We get together and she kind of gives us an update of the things she's working on. Yeah, and we give her updates on what's going on in our office. So it's a good meeting to have.
So I want you to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you've launched over the past year. One is called the Circuit Attorney's Neighborhood Collaboration Program. You also have a Citizens Academy, and Sue and I both took part in the FBI Citizens Academy, so I don't know if it's similar to that, but those have been a couple of programs you've introduced, correct?
Yes. So the Circuit Attorney's Neighborhood Collaboration Program is essentially a program where we offer to any established neighborhood association that would like to have an assistant circuit attorney assigned to their neighborhood association. We'll assign an assistant circuit attorney who will attend their neighborhood association meetings.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
And be there as a resource. And as I tell people, it's really an opportunity for you to have direct access into the circuit attorney's office. So if there's something you want me to hear,
Yeah.
if there's something that you want to know more about a case that occurred in your neighborhood and you want to learn more about it, you're going to have somebody right there in person at your meeting who you can talk to about that, and they'll get you the answers that you're looking for.
Is that a unique situation here, or is that something that's modeled after other locations? Because I've never heard about that, but that sounds
a
great
idea.
It is a great idea, and like a lot of great ideas, we get them from other
Yeah,
people.
that's okay, though. That's okay.
So Jennifer Joyce had a program
okay.
similar to this. So we're restoring it, and we're really emphasizing that we will do it in any neighborhood that wants it. So at this point, we are in most wards, actually in the vast majority of the wards. And in some neighborhoods, by the end of the month, we'll have a couple different neighborhood associations involved. So we're going to do it in any neighborhood association that wants us there.
That's great. And Jennifer Joyce was the circuit attorney that many years ago before
Yes.
Kim Gardner, and she kind of stepped out.
She left
at that
office in
time.
2016.
Right. Yeah, and she was pretty competent, as I remember. She was my neighbor in South City too. I lived in Holly Hills, so I would see her every once in a while when I was walking the dogs. Fred wrote a note also about Citizens Academy. Is that something that you guys are doing, or is that
Citizens Academy? We launched that in October of 25. That was the first class, and it's a program where we bring in community leaders. And when I say community leaders, I'm referring to people who are active in their community, who are looking to improve the St. Louis community. So those are the kind of people we look for. They come in, they spend 6 weeks with us, one night a week for 6 weeks, and they really get a deep dive into our office.
See, I love that
It's
because
a
I did
brilliant
that. I
idea.
did that with the FBI, and it was really eye-opening. And one of the things that we've both talked about this because, and I'm not sure what you do during your Citizens Academy, but one of the most eye-opening things that we experienced was doing a shooting simulation. And they ran us through some mass shooting scenarios and things like that, and forced us to make decisions. Whether
Quickly.
or not, quickly, whether or not you're going to shoot the bad guy or shoot someone who's innocent. And I said at the time, I wish everyone could go through something like that because it really puts you in a different perspective when it comes to that quick decision making. So it's sort of classwork a little bit, but some hands-on stuff to really give people flavor of what you do and what the officers do?
Exactly. So each of our units in our office present to the group and kind of give them a tutorial on their work. We do have field trips with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department works with us on this. So we go to the medical examiner's office.
Really?
Yes. We go to the St. Louis Police Headquarters and get a tour there. So certainly some opportunities to get out and learn.
So let me just say this because I don't know how I got invited to the FBI thing because I am far from a community leader. But if there's ever an opening, because
Yes.
we find it fascinating, and I'm glad that you're doing that because I really think it does make a difference. It makes an impression on people. So I think it's very, very cool. So that's awesome. So if someone ditches out or something like that, throw the invite, or at least invite Sue. She'd be a good. If you don't want me, and I can understand that, invite Sue.
Absolutely.
One of the things, Gabe Gore is here, circuit attorney for the city of St. Louis, that I think anyone will tell you, whether it's the mayor or police officers on the beat, people in your office, is they see the same people a lot, the recidivism issues. So what is the current philosophy on that? Because that frustrates the cops because what happens is they're arrested, they're maybe prosecuted, they're back on the streets. So what have you done to address some of those issues?
So as I always tell people, I accept and embrace the fact that as a state level prosecutor, I have a reactive law enforcement role. My job is to prosecute bad guys who commit crimes, and that's what we do. So when we have people we certainly take into account criminal history in making our decisions about how we're going to resolve cases. So if you're somebody who's demonstrated that you're kind of a career criminal, we're going to prosecute your case as aggressively as possible and put you in prison for as long as we can. In terms of dealing with issues of recidivism, the one program we have where we focus on that is our diversion program. And that's a program that's available to nonviolent, low-level offenders, and it really gives them an opportunity to come do the hard work in our office. We've got 2 attorneys who work in diversion, and we've got 3 caseworkers, and they'll work with you, put you through a program, help you get employment, help you get the services you need to get your life back on track and hopefully not become a habitual participant in the criminal justice system.
Right.
So diversion is a place where we do that. And also we work closely with the courts on our treatment court with people with drug addiction, mental health issues that resulted in crimes. We work with them and try to get them on the right track as well. That's a program where we work very closely with the courts.
That's awesome. You have any other things that you have not been able to done that you really still want to do in the next few years? Are there priorities that you haven't been able to kind of jump on?
I am sure that I will come up with more ideas.
You're not lacking for things to do, though, I guess, right?
We've been active. I mean, a lot of it is perfecting what we're doing. Right now, we've been successful in building the ranks of our trial attorneys. We got the number up to 49 at this point. Wow. But as I point out to people, 25 of our 49 trial attorneys have 3 years or less of prosecuting experience.
Right.
So big focus on training, a lot of work there. Been very happy. We've asked, young attorneys to step up and maybe take on more responsibility than they typically would in a prosecutor office early in their careers. And our trial attorneys have responded very well to that.
Do you get involved in any trials personally?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. At the beginning of 2025, I took 10 violent crime cases.
Oh my
and
God.
I
Yourself?
Said, yep.
Wow.
I told my violent crime unit supervisor, I said, give me kind of just 10 of your standard violent crime cases, and I'm going to handle them personally and really get a feel for how things are going in the courthouse. And that's been interesting. 2 of them have already gone to trial, and I've got one set for trial in early July. So it's been great to get back in the courtroom. It took me a while to get there for the first couple of years. I maybe wanted to do it, but really didn't have the bandwidth given all we were working on. But it's been good to get back in the courtroom. Good to have a chance to really get in the trenches and work with the young attorneys and see how they're doing directly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I used to, back in my younger days, I covered a lot of trials mainly in Columbia, Missouri, where I was before I came back here to St. Louis. And, as you know, a lot of this stuff, there's a lot of detail in trials, right? And stuff that kind of can get boring. But I really covered some interesting trials at the time, murder trials mainly, that were interesting. But there was a guy who, I think he's still a judge in mid-Missouri, Kevin Crane is his name. And he became the new prosecutor in Columbia, in the late 80s. There was a guy named Joe Mosley that was there that was really good. And he became a state senator. But I remember it was one of Kevin's first trials. So he's green, he's a newbie. And it was a weird case, too, because it was about a guy who was from Kirksville, who was a paramedic, and he was accused of raping and drugging a woman in a hotel room. And there was at one point where Kevin says to the judge, and the jury's there, and there's someone on the witness saying, "I object, Your Honor." And the judge, I remember his name, Gene Hamilton, why, you have to have a reason for your objection. And he said, "I don't really know. I just think I should object right now." He was so new at the job. He just and everybody laughed at that moment. It was a moment of levity to a certain extent. You see this stuff on TV, but that kind of cracked me up. And by the way, this is also interesting. The result of that trial, this is what I was told, okay? So you're old enough to remember VHS tapes, right? So if you would get a new VHS tape, if you were to record Seinfeld, right? The next time you record something, maybe 1 second of Seinfeld is on there, right? In this case, this guy had recorded his crime, and he recorded over it with the Weather Channel, but there was one little frame of this hotel room where he was accused of doing the crime. And I was told in the aftermath of this trial that jury saw that, and that was one of the reasons they convicted that guy. So weird, quirky things sometimes happen with juries too, don't they?
It is always interesting with a jury trial, but in my experience, the jury trial process usually results in justice. So I've been a trial lawyer for 31 years now, and juries usually get to the truth one way or another.
Well, Gabe, thank you for coming in here. I really appreciate it. We are interested in this issue of crime and really care about downtown St. Louis because we work here and I'm here every day, and there's certainly challenges that I would put on other parts of the city. But again, I think from what I hear, you're doing a great job. He's the best looking prosecutor in the country. I mean, look at this guy and the way he's dressed. I feel like, I told him when he walked in, I feel like John Fetterman because I got my hoodie on. It's so cold in this studio that Sue and I usually have to wear parkas. So that's one of the reasons. But thank you so much. It's great to have you in studio, and keep in touch, okay?
All right. Thank you
Appreciate
very much
it.
for having us on.
We've got an accident eastbound 70 approaching Z. Watch for that in the right lane. It really is creating a jam behind it. And there was also some emergency vehicles eastbound 6440 just past 94. Those also in the right lane. Now, westbound 70, a little slow at Jennings Station Road. And westbound 64, it's Kings Highway out through McCausland, 270, and slow pockets out through the 70 split. A lot of volume on the Illinois side. Construction, 5570 at 64. That's causing delays back across the Poplar Street Bridge. And eastbound 64 slows at 157. Southbound 270, slow pockets from Olive through Doherty Ferry. This report brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. For over 25 years, they have been St. Louis's trusted choice for transforming homes inside and out. They do everything from siding to kitchens, and they do it with quality craftsmanship and lifetime warranties. Go to lakesiderd.com. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Thank you, Sue. If you're in the market for a car, I want to guide you into an amazing opportunity. That's MasterCars, Inc. They are a used car dealership with new car caliber cars. And I'll give you a couple of real-life examples. Look, when I first dealt with them maybe 12 years ago, there was a car that I was looking at that was probably a little bit above my budget. But when I knew what Alex and Gary did at MasterCars, where they can find cars, get them here to St. Louis, I said, can you find me this car with 5,000 miles? And they knocked it out of the park. I think it had 6,500, so we were really close. Dave Klein, my former producer, was looking for a big SUV recently, and Alex and Gary found one for him, got him to St. Louis, did the financing. It's very simple. MasterCars, Inc. has a lot of cool weekend cars. They have a 56 Chevy sedan on the lot right now. They have a lot of Corvettes. They have muscle cars. They have Harleys. But they also have your everyday cars. And if they don't have them on the lot, they can find them and get them here to St. Louis. You can be driving in it in a matter of time. You're not going to be stuck in a finance office signing this paperwork or that paperwork. They make it so easy for you. They really do. And I love these guys. And you'll have car experts for the rest of your life, right? MasterCarsInc.com. Get with them today. Tell them that I sent you along. All right, a couple of things I haven't talked about yet today. Sue, are you familiar? Have you heard the buzz about the UFC Freedom 250 on the South Lawn of the White House?
Well, I had it in Sue's news that it was coming up, but I don't know much more.
Okay, so, I don't even know much more about it either. I just know I've heard about this, and it's going to be a big deal on the 14th, which is President Trump's birthday. It's also part of the Freedom 250 celebration of the birthday of the country. It's going to be broadcast on CBS and Paramount Plus. The event is, I think, ticketed, but they're going to do this like outside of the White House. But just listen to some of the reaction. There's a part of me that thinks Trump does this just to get reaction like this.
If you go back in history, you see sports has in times been used by authoritarian governments. Do you worry about the confluence of this sport in particular and the Trump administration sort of being intertwined?
I don't think like that.
You know, I want to go to the Constitution. We were going to have to study this pretty hard to see if there's a separation of fighting and state, like UFC and state, like the separation of church and state, which, by the way, is not mentioned in the Constitution. It's in the Federalist Papers. But there are people that are just losing their mind. One of the reasons I think I support something like this is because Al Sharpton says stuff like this.
There is a connection of why they're having these fights on the White House lawn, the UFO and all the UFO, whatever they call it, UFC, and all that, because they're trying to go back to that when they'd watch people have these fights for the slave masters and they'd be entertained by that.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's bringing back slavery. Are you kidding me? That's the guy who couldn't spell the word respect, by the way. RISPECT. Al Sharpton. Then, Trump wants to troll him even more. He's like, hey, this may be permanent.
Building something in front of the White House that's quite attractive to a lot of people. It's going to have the big UFC fight on June 14th. And I'm looking at it and maybe we'll never, ever take it down.
I think he does that just to poke people. Look, it's been tough for me. I'm not a mixed martial arts guy. I do like a good boxing match occasionally. These guys just seem to beat the living snot out of one another. And like the women in particular, it's like rough to watch it. I don't have anything. I mean, people are into it. It's become very popular. I don't know if it's at its peak like it was maybe a decade ago or something like that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but when he was asked about something else today, and I will say, and I said this yesterday, I did watch, that because it's the NBA Finals and because it's the New York Knicks and the legend of the Knicks, and it's been so long since they've been good, and because of Wembanyama, the San Antonio player, who's incredibly like 10 feet tall and can shoot 3-pointers from half court.
Crazy.
I'm watching some. So last night was interesting because it was a home game for the Spurs, and the Knicks took them down in game 1. Wow. So that series is off and running. Tonight is game 2 of the NHL Finals. I've become a little bit of a Golden Knights, I don't want to say fan, but I have more interest because of my friends out there. And Sue, the Golden Knights story is, we're a hockey town, right?
Yeah.
And we've won how many Stanley Cups?
1.
Yeah. And how many times have we been to the finals? I don't know the answer to that.
Innumerable.
Okay, but like they've, in 10 years, they seem to go to the finals every time, and they could win, this would be their 3rd cup?
Oh, I don't know.
They won.
Wow.
They won the other night, the opening game, in dramatic fashion. So this is still out. I keep saying the Panthers, but it's the Hurricanes,
right? Of
course, in Carolina. But I'm super into playoff hockey and the finals in particular. Even if you're just a fan of sports, it's hard to not at least dive in just a little bit. So I'm certainly going to be watching those two things as we head into the weekend. The Cardinals are off tonight, by the way. One Mizzou-related note, which I think is pretty cool. This got announced today. I don't know how many people have heard about this. I go back to my time with the University of Missouri when I was a student and a reporter that was covering Mizzou to when they were in the Big 8. Remember the Big 8?
Oh, yeah.
The Big 8 had Nebraska originally. That became the Big 12. And they are actually in a situation right now where they just announced, let me pull this up officially. I think I tweeted this out. On December 12th in Kansas City at T-Mobile Arena, meeting number 220, but the first in 16 years, Mizzou and Nebraska in Kansas City at T-Mobile. I think that's going to be awesome. And, Nebraska is a team that has sucked for many, many a decade. And I go back to like when they were trying to compete with Danny Nee, who was the coach many years ago. They've actually gotten relatively good. They smoked, I don't want to say smoked, they beat Illinois in Champaign last fall, and they made the NCAA tournament for the first time in like forever.
Wow.
So I like this because, you got a little more of the Big 12 rivalry stuff, even in the SEC with the football team now. We're playing KU again this year, but I love the basketball rivalries as well. And then I don't know if did they ever make this official for the SLU game here in St. Louis? There's a lot of buzz about that. I'm
not sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen too. As well. All right, we have audio cut of the day coming up before the hour is up. Oh, I did want to play one more thing here because this is sports related. And I was on that tangent. When I was talking about the Knicks and everything, the president was asked about that.
Last night, huge night for the city of New York. The Knicks won Game 1 of the NBA Finals. There's been a lot of speculation. Have you decided whether or not you want to attend a game at Madison Square
Well,
Garden?
I've been a Knicks fan for a long time, and I'm also a Jim Dolan fan. He's a nice guy, okay? He's been a long time wanting to win, and he's a competitive guy, and he's got a team that's amazing. I don't think they've lost a playoff game.
12 straight wins.
Can you imagine that? And it was not looking good. I saw the beginning of the game, and it wasn't looking good. I missed the middle because I talked to generals all night long now. But I watched that end of the game, and they were dominant. Really amazing. And Wemby's a great player. He's going to be a great player, and he is already a great player. I say, how do you guard this guy? 7'5", and he's got a great shot, right? But they find a way to do it. They're really great. They're a great team. And I'm happy for Jim, because Jim has really been fighting hard to, produce such a team. So you never know. The answer is yes, he's invited me. I'm going.
I don't care if you're a sports fan. This New York Knicks story is really incredible. And Jalen Brunson, the guy who kind of sealed the deal last night, he's the shortest guy. It's so funny. He's 6'2". He's the shortest guy on the court, and he was the guy that sealed the deal. And they shut Webby down last night. He did not have a good game. So, but 12 in a row. When does that happen? Now, I'm not expecting that they're going to sweep this series, and I don't think Vegas is going to sweep the series with Carolina either. But those are both compelling postseason matchups that people should be dialed into if they're sports fans. And by the way, something else this weekend, the Belmont Stakes on Saturday.
I got to get over my hatred of the Knicks from the 90s.
I know. And
it's a tough thing. Bill Laimbeer, all of it.
I agree with you, but it's such a historic and legendary franchise, and this is an interesting year, certainly.
I'll try. There is an accident on eastbound 70. It was approaching Highway Z, and that has caused a delay in that area. Now, westbound 70 out of downtown, slowing at Jennings Station Road, then in pockets on out, but no serious jams. And 64 is kind of the same way. It's slow pockets from approaching Kings Highway, and then that goes on out through the 70 split. But again, not solid jams. Southbound 270, slow pockets Olive, down through Gravois. The real heavy traffic is on the Illinois side. Eastbound 5570, headed for the 64-70 split. We've got road work there causing delays. 44 westbound is slow in front of the Arch grounds. And 64 eastbound, some volume there from 111 to 157. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
And this portion of the show at 5:35 is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating, Air Conditioning, Electrical, and Plumbing. Couple of notes from the listeners. My friend Don says a hometown Jeff County boy will be fighting on the card at the White House. Michael Chandler, who went to Northwestern High School.
I'll be darned.
Stud, he says, first form guy. So that's good. I like to have the local connection on that for sure. So that was very interesting. Audio cut of the day coming up. Don't forget, Reardon Roundtable tomorrow. Former State Senator Jeff Smith will be on the panel. On the D side, Greg Keller, Republican consultant, will have Cusimano kind of taking us into the weekend with sports. A lot of stuff to talk about. And then we're going to highlight the new D-Day Memorial in Grafton. Sue is going out for the dedication on Saturday morning. Mike Morrow, who is related to Sue and also the mayor of Grafton, is going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour tomorrow. Peter Savodik back with us, senior editor at the FP, the Free Press, and he wrote about California. I find some of the things happening out there very interesting, and maybe, just maybe, there's a little hope for California. Peter, good afternoon. Welcome back. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
The one thing that's really frustrating in all of this is, I think you know, is that you can, like yesterday I looked, and I had 60% of the vote for the governor's race, and today I think they're up to a whopping 62% of the vote. So some of this is hard to kind of handicap and comment on because we just don't know the numbers, and I just can't believe that California counts ballots this way. It feels like something that should be happening in a third world country.
Correct. I think what's going on and what has been going on for a while is that they implemented this very, very, what you might call like the system that's designed to make it as easy as possible to vote as late as you want, wherever you want. And the reason they do that is that the system is controlled by Democrats, and the people who tend to vote late from wherever they want, those who are least inclined to vote, tend to vote disproportionately Democrat. So the moment that they start voting differently, the rules will change. But until then, you should expect more of this very, very protracted, absurd kind of vote counting.
So my hot takes would be I'm still, and I'm always wrong, by the way, so I'll just admit that. So this might be beneficial for people who want to go out in the betting markets, but it really is difficult for me to believe that Spencer Pratt is going to be the next mayor of L.A. He's definitely tapped into something, and I guess there could be something really weird that happens. However, on the Steve Hilton front for governor, Peter, I mean, those numbers are pretty impressive, and they're certainly far from final, but he has definitely tapped into something statewide. And while ordinarily, you would think a progressive is going to be the next governor of California, I think Steve Hilton has a legit chance, and I think you do too.
I think that Hilton has a very serious chance. Hilton is a very impressive candidate. He's got the sort of the media personality, showman's ability to articulate complicated ideas succinctly and clearly and often entertainingly, and he's up against a pretty lackluster, potentially, and we'll see who it is. I think it's going to be Becerra, but he's up against like a pretty lackluster Democratic opponent, and that's good and bad, right? Becerra is vanilla and inoffensive, and I think the moment that things begin to go south for him, he'll just trot out one of the cases he waged when he was state AG and fighting the Trump administration, which is a great way to distract voters. But we'll see. Hilton is very, very smart, and he's been very good on the stump, and I think he's likable. I don't think that Pratt, by the way, is completely. I don't think it's as much of an uphill battle as some people may think. It's going to be very, very tough, but he has the potential to do something big if he's able to kind of push himself beyond sort of his more comfortable kind of West Side enclave. So, the kind of the wealthier West Side of Los Angeles, which is his home base, he's done very, very well there. You look at like the precinct by precinct breakdown. He dominated the Palisades and Bel Air and elsewhere in the Valley. He's got to go deep into Karen Bass territory if he wants to have any chance, and that would mean going into overwhelmingly Latino neighborhoods south and east of downtown and elsewhere, and we'll see. But that's up to him, and then of course he's going to have to mount a ground game that can rival that of the unions. So there's a lot he's up against, but I think it's
better chance than ordinary. And I think this is an important line or paragraph from your piece, and I want my listeners to understand this. You said, to be crystal clear, these voters are not in an ideological mood, right? This is not about MAGA or return to the old Ronald Reagan conservatism, right? These guys are more common sense, whatever you want to call them, but it's a different type. But it's frustration on the part of California voters who have seen their cities and their states really go downhill, and they spoke very vocally in the last election about repealing, the proposition that allowed shoplifters to take as much as they want as long as it was not over $1,000.
Right.
So that was one of those early signals that maybe things are changing a bit in parts of California.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are all, to use Rob Henderson's phrase, these are all luxury beliefs. Like, the luxury of saying we can defund the police, the luxury of saying that we can focus on sort of any number of cultural war issues or concerns at the expense of focusing on very, very meat and potatoes, everyday concerns like potholes and people shooting drugs on the street, in front of schools. Ordinary Angelenos, ordinary human beings, irrespective of their political bent, don't want that. And I think that Democrats are aware of that, but they're hemmed in by various kind of interests in their own party that make it difficult to respond accordingly.
You seem to indicate in the most recent story that you wrote about this that the progressives were more than just a little frustrated yesterday morning. We had Hassan Piker come in here to try to campaign for Cori Bush, who's trying to win her seat back against Wesley Bell in our region. And he's just a disgusting person. But you actually say that as he was watching the election returns in, he felt black-pilled, hopeless. He was outraged that Hilton was on top and Pratt was coming on strong. So are you telling me that this was actually they're a little surprised that they didn't see some of this coming?
I don't know. It's hard for me to know how much of what Hassan Piker says is real and how much is theater. So he may have known this is coming, but this is a good way to present things. I have a hard time, like you, imagining that people could actually be surprised by this. I think that Pratt coming in a very strong second, where he is right now at least, makes all the sense in the world. He's had a very strong campaign, and he's up against inertia and name ID, and those two things are very, very powerful. But it's not surprising at all that he's done as well as he has. It's not surprising that he's outpaced Nithya Raman, who represents, I think, the interests of basically downwardly mobile, overly credentialed people, like, uber progressives on sort of the eastern kind of like parts of the city. It's sort of the equivalent of the Brooklyn of LA. And it's Zohra Mamdani's base. And I think that, she has waged, I think, a pretty creative campaign, but I don't think that she's just not going to resonate with enough people, and her connection to Democratic Socialists of America and the more radical, sort of flank that has been seeping deep into the Democratic Party, I think that scares the bejesus out of tons of voters in LA, including lots and lots of moderate Democrats. So, it's a fascinating race because it exposes these big fissures inside the Democratic Party.
Right. Peter Savodik, great reporting. I really appreciate it here. Thanks for coming on 97.1 FM Talking St. Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, on the roads, we've had some issues. Now, if you are an eastbound 70 driver, we still have a slow go showing up just east of Forest Dell. And then we're pretty busy at the 70-64 split out west. But 70 westbound out of downtown is fine. It's a little slow past 94 eventually. And 64 slowing approaching Hampton out through McCausland. Eastbound slows 170 through Big Bend. But we've got an accident now on westbound 6440 past Highway K, and that has caused a delay. Southbound 270, mainly moderate volume from 64. Now, this is in pockets, but it's down to almost Gravois. And westbound Highway 30 is jammed. There was an accident reported kind of just before you get to Gravois Bluffs. So there is some slow-moving traffic there. Now, 55 northbound and southbound are in good shape. But we do have some volume on the Illinois side on 55-64, right at the 70 split. This is eastbound. And eastbound 64, roadwork near 157, causing a delay. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
One thing that we all have in common here at the Mark Reardon Show is we all love our dogs, right, Sue? I have a great dog story for you coming up here that is related to the French Open, so I'm going to share that with you in just a couple of minutes. I want to first tell the listeners about how awesome Innsbruck is. Innsbruck is just an hour away from St. Louis. It's not as far as the Lake of the Ozarks. It's not as congested. It really is an amazing experience. And one of the ways that you can literally dip your feet into the water is do a rental at Innsbruck. You maybe do a dog-friendly property cruise. That's what we do. It's a very beautiful lake community, hiking, a lot of activities, a lot of things for the kids to do, a beautiful golf course. And the Innsbruck life is just relaxing. I mean, I'm a pretty amped up person, type A personality.
Yes.
Sue's like, that's an understatement. But when I'm out at a place like Innsbruck, I just chill, and it's really, really comfortable. If the weather is right in the spring or fall, we like to get a place that's got a hot tub too. That might not really apply for the summer. But if you're interested in building a property out there, or buying a property, having just a weekend property, holding a wedding or another event at Innsbruck, you can do all kinds of things. And they have everything on the ground. You never really have to leave. They won't prevent you from leaving, but rent a golf cart. That's the best way to do it. They're going to take great care of you. So check out Innsbruck on the website, innsbruck-resort.com. Do a staycation, check out the properties, have a little fun this summer at Innsbruck. Well, this is going to be one of those Reardon Roundtables tomorrow where we're just not even going to scratch the surface, I think, on the amount of topics. There's just too much stuff going on. But Jeff Smith, former state senator, and Greg Keller, Republican consultant, will be here on the panel tomorrow in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll toss around all the stories of the week and have a little fun with those. Those two guys are, a lot of times what we look for is chemistry with the panelists. And Greg and Jeff could probably not be further apart, but they're also friends, and they tease each other pretty well. And it's always good-spirited. And Greg's always right, of course, but that's just because, he's on my side. So that's coming up tomorrow. We will have Frank Cusimano after Sue's News, Paul Hall as well on entertainment, and a lot of sports stuff going into the weekend as well.
And we're going to have Scott Jagow, former KMOX reporter, who is now in New York covering the Belmont. So he'll give us a preview tomorrow.
Yeah, so I feel so stupid because I worked with Scott. He helped us tremendously on election night in 2024, was down here doing a lot of the local returns. And then he left to go back to New York, and they were telling me that he's doing something related to horse racing. I'm like, wait a second.
He always,
horse. I didn't know that. I didn't know his background. Yeah, he has a real strong background, and I had no clue. I'm a huge horse racing guy. I've been to like 15 derbies, one Belmont Stakes, several Breeders' Cups. I've only been to one Belmont Stakes, but it was awesome way back. And they're not doing the Belmont Stakes at Belmont Park again this year. You know that, right?
yeah,
Because they're
I did.
renovating Belmont Park, so they
But
are.
he's in Saratoga.
Saratoga, yeah,
Right.
Saratoga Race Course.
That's gonna be awesome.
And that's on my bucket list, really, to see Saratoga because it's beautiful. I told you I want to do Saratoga and I want to do the Baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, like on the same trip. We have a lot of fun going on. I think the weekend, by the way, I don't want to jinx anything. The weather looks really good. We got the air show out in Chesterfield. Our friend Mark Sutherland is here to promote this, get the word in for people here because we have a lot of fun going on with the Spirit of St. Louis Air Show and STEM Expo. Mark, how are you this afternoon?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Give us all the details one more time because I know a lot of people are interested. One thing that we want to focus on because I know this becomes an issue is that there are a lot of people that are going to head out there this weekend, right? So you are encouraging folks to head out early because parking and traffic can be a challenge. There's going to be a little patience that's going to have to be involved, right?
Absolutely. Small regional airport, 50,000 of your closest friends showing up at the same time. There's traffic. So come early, stay late. Parking lots open at 8. Gates are at 9. Air show starts around 11:30. Lots of stuff to do on the ground. Massive STEM Expo, huge static ramp where you can get up in aircraft. And then, of course, Patriots Landing, spend some time with our heroes in uniform, climb around on some equipment, have some fun there as well. And then, of course, a massive air show, 4.5 hours, headlined by the U.S. Navy Blue Angels and the Canadian Forces Snowbirds, who, if you were watching the sky today, did an epic flyover together.
I missed it.
Snowbirds arrived from Canada. Look on our social media. You'll see all the videos. It was absolutely fantastic. And this is the last year the Snowbirds will be flying these aircraft. So that's the last time you'll ever see the Tudor and the FA-18 flying together like that.
And why is that?
So they are actually moving to new aircraft.
Okay.
But they won't be flying for the next 3 or 4 years while they're waiting for those new aircraft to come. So this will be the last chance to see the Snowbirds for the next few years. And then, of course, we've got a phenomenal show with the F-22. We've got a Spitfire. We've got the shooters jumping out of a D-Day aircraft, and many others. Skip Stewart, who flies through golf courses and crazy things like that.
Do you also have? I've heard rumors about the interactive Mark Reardon FA-18 Blue Angels experience, where there's vomit bags involved and stuff like that. Do you have that this year? I know you did that last time around.
So yeah, we do have the simulator. It's not named after Mark Reardon anymore, unfortunately. That actually never happened.
I don't know if I don't know if I should blame you or give
happened.
I don't know if I should blame you or give you credit because Mark is the guy that really and you had invited me one other time to fly with the Blue Angels and I totally avoided the invitation because I was really having trouble with my anxiety at that time and I didn't know what the requirements were. But then 4 years ago, I finally said yes and the advice was get in shape. It's going to feel like you ran 5 miles. I of course ignored that. Was in perhaps the worst physical condition that I could have been in to take a flight like that. But it was a blast, but it beat me up, as you know, man. I came off that thing wobbly, and I'll never forget the pilot. He was great. He goes, all right, when he's coming in for landing, we can do this one of two ways. We can do this the Top Gun way or the regular way. And I'm like, please just do it the regular way. I kind of regret that. But no, look, that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. How many people get to fly with the Blue Angels? I'll never, ever, ever forget it, Mark. But I know this air show is a lot of fun for folks. So good luck this weekend. We wanted to get one last plug on for you. And take care. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And remember, everybody is a volunteer. So when you're in line,
nice.
when you're parking, just be nice. Everybody's given of their time. It takes 1,000 volunteers to pull this off. So, bring your patience and bring your fun.
No, that's important. All right. Thank you, Sutherland. Appreciate it. Take
Thank
care.
you.
That's a great show. And I know a lot of people are going to show up for that. And, there'll be people that'll, I don't think you're really allowed to pull off to the side of the road. But whenever I'm going through the valley during the air show, I see people just kind of pulled off to the side of the road watching.
Yeah. Stand by. Playback ready.
Now, the audio cut of the day.
Look, I haven't talked about this topic, even though we've had some of our pundits on this afternoon. I just don't understand what's happening. We've got some character issues in the Republican Party. There's no doubt about that. I've talked about Ken Paxton. But, this guy that wins District 12 in New Jersey, Adam Hamaway, who was a defense witness for the Blind Sheikh, the guy that first tried to blow up the World Trade Center. It is disgusting. And, yesterday, I can't remember which guest mentioned this. It might have been Brian, because Andy McCarthy, who's a Fox News legal analyst, was the guy that was prosecuting that case.
It wasn't like I subpoenaed him. It wasn't like the government brought him in as a hostile witness. He volunteered to testify for this guy. He knew exactly who he was. What he ended up saying on cross-examination was that the Blind Sheikh talked about jihad all the time, and in fact, at that conference, had talked about making war against the United States. So everybody knew who this guy was.
This guy is pro-Palestine Hamas terrorist, and that's who they're electing. And look, AOC way behind him. He's calling him a hero. She's calling him a hero.
Dr. Hamaway has a history of treating people in war and has a history of treating people who've been medically vulnerable. He's been quite heroic. I think that he has rightfully earned his place as Democratic nominee.
They're putting up some people on this ballot that are just revolting. And, you know, it's one thing to have a candidate like that, but then to, you know, to promote them and not back off when you have serious allegations, that's a little bizarre to me. Oh, then we'll end on one little fun thing here, because I found this, and I don't know when this happened. I think it was over the weekend, Sue. Okay, this was at Busch Stadium. You know Todd Thomas, who does like the stuff with the crowd and the outfield and stuff? He's really good. He talks to this fan who is 103 years old.
Let me tell you about this lovely lady here. She is from Streator, Illinois. She's up here with a bunch of her friends. Her name is Catherine. And guess what? She was born in 1926. She is 103 years old.
That's awesome.
But listen, she corrects the math.
1923. Yeah, she was born in 23. She's correcting me because she's 103. So on a count of three, everybody yell, "Happy birthday, Catherine." 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Catherine.
My favorite part of that is when she corrected Todd, because in the moment he got, you know, he was like 100 years and she's like, "Hey, I'm 103. Is that not amazing? That's awesome. Incredible. Have a great Thursday night. I'm going to say go Knights because I'm kind of rooting for them. We'll talk tomorrow at 3.
We've got some volume on 70 out west, just west of Z in both directions. Nothing too terrible. A bit of a slow go. And eastbound 64, still slow 170 through Big Bend. On the Illinois side, eastbound 64, 55 is slowing at Exchange. We've got road work going on there. And road work eastbound 64 approaching 255 through 157. 55 is in good shape. Hooray for that. I'm Sue Thomas, and that's traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.